though. If you ever go down
I
there,
haven't been there yet.
I like that. I'm not gonna lie, I like it better than Mama Penn's.
Really?
Ooh,
I haven't
it's
been
good.
to Mama Pence in like 5-10 years,
Yeah.
but
That's a Anderson staple.
yeah,
That's like
for sure.
not going nowhere.
Where's Grace's at?
Get
So
that
I
fat
know
back.
I know I've been to Mama Penn's before, but I can't. Is that a coffee shop?
No, it's a
Or is
restaurant.
that a bar?
Like meat and three.
Yeah, it's a meat and three. Yeah.
like,
Okay, that's what I thought. I know I've been there before. I
It's
just
so
couldn't remember.
good. Yeah.
I've
I'm
never been
losing
there.
a lot of like brain power lately. I've been it's weird. I've been noticing it more lately that I'm just like I have these ideas of like faint memories in my mind, but
Welcome
I
to
can't
my
quite
world,
pull
sir.
them.
Welcome
into
to
words.
my world. It's an everyday thing.
It's like
Let me tell you.
it's
Yeah.
I don't know.
You
What's
got to
going
start writing stuff down. man.
Right.
In your notes, on your phone.
Right. What's up, guys?
How you guys
What's
doing,
up?
man? Miss you guys, man.
Dude,
Yeah.
sideline talk. David, Mike, Colby.
What's up?
What's going on?
Dude, nothing.
No
So,
soccer this weekend.
No soccer this weekend.
Yeah.
Well, for us.
Should we talk about it
Insane.
real quick? Should we talk about last weekend?
Well, we can.
We can.
Our boys,
Yeah.
our boys fought hard. They lost.
They lost.
They fought real
Yeah.
hard.
You guys are still sour about it. I can tell.
I'm not sour. They did good. I just wish my guy didn't have a
Yeah.
bug or whatever it was he had.
Can I
Yeah.
say, give me Liam's last weekend experience over Jackson's weekend experience all day long? And I'm telling you, like, Liam won one game,
Mm-hmm.
lost two, and
Yep.
Jackson just won the final.
They win
but-
every game they played.
They won every game they played,
Jeez.
but they won 4-1, 5-0, 5-0, 3 games. They had to call fire, right? We know
Yeah.
what that means.
Jeez.
So now they're just knocking it around, and then they won
In the
final
tournament.
3-0
in the
you know?
tournament.
In the tournament. So, I thought Liam and our boys, and I'd say same thing for you guys,
Mhm.
gained way more from that experience.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they really did well. I mean, they're playing and competing against some kids 2 years older than
Yeah,
them,
for
Yeah.
sure. Mm-hmm.
That's true.
and that's going to prepare them for the path that lies ahead.
I agree.
So,
Yeah.
Who is this random voice we have on our podcast? Should
Who
we,
is
should,
this?
should we, should we introduce him?
Introduce yourself.
These
Yeah.
wise words.
Introduce yourself.
We've got Tom Morris joining us on the podcast today. So we know Tom through soccer, obviously.
Yeah.
His son Liam is on the same team as our 3 sons.
Mhm.
So we got to know Tom very well over the last 2 years. And the most interesting thing that I learned about Tom within the last 2 years, well, actually, that's not true. There's a lot of interesting things. I learned about Tom.
Oh, no.
But a talking point that we decided that we need to have Tom on is he is the guy behind the idea of the Center of Excellence program at CISA.
Mm.
Well, let me stop you there. No, because really, I didn't have the idea. I'll tell you what, Andrew Hislop was a big reason why I came to the club.
Nice.
It was known as the Junior Academy. The Junior Academy, as it is, so under 9 through under 12, was actually called the Academy,
Okay.
and they wanted to have a Junior Academy program. And at that time when I came in, so this was 2009,
Mhm.
and I know that because that's the year I got married.
Nice.
You hear that, Cindy? You hear
That's
that?
right. That's right. Oh yeah, July
Shout out.
18th, 2009. One of the
Oh.
greatest days of my life
Awesome.
because I got married to my beautiful wife, Cindy Morris. But also 2009 was great because I got hired on full time at CISA, and what they had was this program for identifying talent in the recreation program. Great idea, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, it was a free program. Another great idea.
Mm-hmm.
We need more free soccer that develops kids and gives them a chance to excel, right? So the only issue with that was I was identifying these talents. So I came in and piggybacked someone else that had the job before me.
Mhm.
And I would invite these kids out, and I would have at some sessions 40 kids. And then when the weather got bad, I'd have like 2.
Mhm.
So staffing that became very, very difficult. So then it was the discussions with David Minahan, who's the current Junior Academy director,
Yep.
who is a phenomenal human being, a good friend, and a fantastic coach as well. Andrew Hislop kind of said, hey, why not take what we're doing with the, at that time, academy, now the Junior Academy, and can we do it more like a paid where we'll have professional coaches, because that's what they are, right? They go get licenses, how to
Yes.
get my licenses, all these types of things, have experience playing the game, and just do it on a smaller version.
Yeah.
And then it was like, who are you going to play? Well, if you take the best kids out of the younger age groups, who are they going to play?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we end up playing as under 8s in the recreation, under 10s, which, is
Yeah.
sometimes a big jump physically.
Mhm.
But if we have paid coaches, not volunteer coaches, we should be able to tell a difference and be able to compete. And I would say, without question, our group of boys has had that,
Competing.
and also has fantastic parents like yourselves, which
Yeah.
no, really, honestly,
David's
getting to know
blushing
you
over there.
guys has been amazing. And it's
Oh, for sure.
it doesn't surprise me when I see what your boys do on the field, no question about it. And so it also, if somebody can take a step and you have to take 3 steps to keep up with them,
Yeah.
well, how do you compete with them? You have to be more skillful, so more
Yep.
technical. You have to understand the game better. You have to use your teammates. You have to use the ball, right?
Yeah.
I used to do this exercise with that age group where I'd have like the fastest kid would always step up, like, yeah, I want to do this, right? And be like, okay, we're gonna have a race. Like, Michael, you're the fastest kid, so you're gonna dribble the ball, and I'm gonna pass the ball from me to David, and we're gonna see who wins. And they're all jacked up, like,
Yeah.
of course, dudes, that's what we do. Oh, I'm gonna win. I'm gonna win.
Yeah, for sure.
And of course, what wins? Like, not even close.
The
It's
ball.
the ball,
Of course.
right? And
Yeah.
you could see that. I think both groups I saw definitely did that at times. The consistency is what we're looking for,
Right.
but at times they did that and played together and moved the ball because it's a team game, and they got good results from it.
So obviously, Tom, you've got a good soccer mind. You have a little bit of a background of soccer. So let's talk about that, and then we'll reconvene about COE and this weekend.
Yeah. Take us back
So-
to the beginning.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
When did you start playing soccer? What was family life growing up? Was it always soccer, or did you start off playing another sport first?
So my parents, amazing people, and first and foremost, servers, leaders, sacrifice for their family. My father was a tremendous athlete in Cleveland, Ohio. He was all city in football, baseball, and basketball.
Jeez.
So yeah, hey, talk about some pressure.
That's crazy.
I'll be honest with you, like, I felt that pressure growing up,
Yeah.
because you hear the stories. Like, my grandma showed me letters from like the Pittsburgh Pirates and stuff that
Oh,
were
wow.
scouting him. Now he
Mhm.
got a bad knee injury,
Mhm.
and back in, he's born in 1949, so do the math. Like, the arthroscopic knee surgeries, the ACL knee surgeries were not like they are today.
Yeah.
Well, they
Right?
didn't exist
So,
back then. He was getting cut.
He ended up going on and playing in Bowling Green baseball. But, for me growing up, his influence in sports was huge. It was all around us.
Yeah.
Also, where I grew up in Erie, Pennsylvania, is a sports mad town
Mm.
on the balmy shores of Lake Erie, Erie, PA, and it's very similar to, because it's sandwiched right in between Cleveland, Ohio, and Buffalo, New York, just a little bit smaller. And, we had sports around us all the time growing up. Also have an older brother, Jeremy, who played football, American football. So we played that. We played basketball. We played kick the can, man. We played ghost in the graveyard.
Yeah,
Bringing
for
back
sure.
memories.
Yeah,
Yes.
and like, so we were always active, and of course, boys, right?
Right.
And then of course, my younger brother, who's almost 6 years younger than us.
Okay.
But we had this group within our neighborhood that we were always playing stuff. So growing up, recreation soccer, my dad ended up coaching. He
That's
didn't have a
awesome.
clue about soccer, but he knew how to coach. He knew sports. Like, he had the milk jugs. I'll never forget these milk jugs that he emptied, like the gallon milk jugs, and he'd empty them out and fill them up with water. And those were like our cones, and
Oh,
just
wow.
dribbling through those,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, he didn't know the proper technique we should be using, like how you manipulate the ball with your foot. And
Right.
I really didn't get that till later, but his instincts were good for sure. So I played recreation soccer, played recreation basketball, ended up playing football, believe it or not, with pads, full pads,
Mm-hmm.
with a huge helmet that, like, was way too big for my head.
Yeah.
Certainly got concussions or two. Cindy
Got your
Morris.
neck strength up
This
too,
explains a lot, Cindy Morris.
Oh,
This
man. No.
like so. But had a blast doing all of that. And then Erie, PA also had a great soccer community. There's Gannon University and Mercyhurst University that are like traditionally were top 25 in the country Division
Nice.
II programs. And for the longest time, Division II soccer, you could get ex-pros. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
that's just the truth
Mhm.
playing there. A lot of international guys. So these guys that were playing at the university, when I ended up, so going back, playing recreation soccer for volunteer dads and stuff. I went to a camp and somebody saw something in me, I guess, and invited me to go to do some travel ball.
Okay.
So I did play travel ball as well.
How old are you at this point?
So under 11.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like 10. Yeah, about Jackson's age is when I
Okay.
first started. And back then it was like playing on an 11v11 field.
Mhm.
That's crazy.
You'd probably get like 10 touches a game or something like that,
Jeez.
Yeah, because that's how it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy to think about it. But like I said, really good soccer community, crazy sports town. And these people really helped shape my love for the game. And two people in particular, really. John Melody, who was the head coach for Mercyhurst University, an Irish guy, really taught me what it meant to compete on the field.
Mm-hmm.
And was just a fantastic coach. Got them to some Final Fours, for national championship, all that. And then a guy, Marco Kuhlman, who is just an unbelievable coach. He was a great player, All-American, a Dutch guy, that also went on to win national championship in Division II at Franklin Pierce.
Okay.
I ended up going to transfer to play for him. But those two guys, so really in ninth grade is when I made the switch to full-on soccer. And to be quite frank, I was never the best player on my team.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I just never was.
Mm-hmm.
I had some struggles early on when I was younger, just not really understanding what it meant to compete, and being okay with, like, it's okay if you go in and like go shoulder to shoulder and knock somebody off the ball.
Yeah.
I just didn't have that spark about me yet.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of helped me back. In fact, if my parents would have listened to my first club under 11 coach, I wouldn't have been sitting here like this with you guys today, because
You
he
playing.
said, hey, maybe soccer is not the sport for Tommy because
Wow.
he's not aggressive enough. And then I ended up playing Division I, Division II college soccer on scholarship as a defender.
There you go.
Yeah.
So like,
Oh my God.
That's awesome.
and like understood then. So I guess I would just encourage you guys and any other parents out there listening is just to be patient to work through the process.
Yeah.
I think that's where God's worked in my life big time, is like really anything good takes time. It takes consistency and takes some patience.
All
Right. So, but anyhow, certainly mom and dad were a big piece of supporting us, getting us all over the place. And then also, so I can go off on a tangent. here, so
I've
stop
got
me at any
a
point.
couple questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I was playing with my phone,
Sorry.
but I was half listening, so you might have covered this.
That's all good, man. No worries. I get
Yeah, I
it,
was
dude.
just
I get it.
Getting us some more listeners on YouTube.
Yeah.
So what about soccer? You said that you were maybe not the most aggressive kid.
Yeah.
As a child, especially playing soccer. What about it drew you to it that made you want to stick with it at that age? And it seemed like you had options to play all kinds of sports.
Sure.
What made you want to stick with soccer and even go to club soccer at that point?
Sure. I think being a boy and needing an outlet for all that energy was
Yeah.
huge, right? And the fact that soccer is a flow sport, much like basketball,
Mhm.
hockey, where like the game's going on, there's not a lot of stoppages.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
In fact, that's like, my dad loved baseball. And I know like he was out there with me practicing baseball, and I'm sure it probably broke his heart on some level.
Mhm.
But of course, he's a great dad and it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, in fact, he tells this story about this guy in college, the Swedish guy that was like, he's juggling a soccer ball, and my dad's like, "What is that?" Like, like because
Yeah.
people did,
Yeah,
in the States,
exactly.
it just
Yeah.
wasn't a big deal. And he was
Right.
like, "You're gonna love this game one day." And Dad loves the game. Why?
Nice.
Because his boys went on to play.
Yeah.
And it became a big piece of our life.
I
traveling all
think
that
I
stuff.
think that's very fair to say with most parents, right? It's like you have your passion sport growing up or whatever, something that you're super into, but then you have kids and you find yourself being into whatever they're into, whether it's
Mhm.
like a certain video game they're
Yeah.
into
Yeah,
or
for sure.
a sport they're into or even like an art thing that they're into. It's really crazy, right? Like you gravitate towards it. You find yourself watching YouTube videos about it,
Yeah.
trying to figure out the game. It's pretty cool to see. you
Because
know?
your
So-
son or child has that passion. You're like, man, that's cool. That's cool
Yeah.
that he has passion for it.
You just
Well,
want to connect
because
with
you
them.
guys are doing it right.
Mhm.
I mean, unfortunately, some kids don't have that,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
But like you guys are doing it right, where obviously you love your kid, and so if they're into it, you're into it.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, but you speak of your dad, like
Yeah.
your dad had that passion. So, you have that passion with your kids because he had it with you. When we all had that, we all
Absolutely.
had
Right.
dads that would do that stuff with us. So that's makes a big deal.
Yeah, it's
For
funny
sure.
when you were talking about your dad with the water jugs and stuff. You had no idea anything about soccer. My dad, he coached my rec team when I was a little kid too, probably like 8, 9, 10. And I was thinking about this the other day. He was a big time wrestler, state of Illinois, like huge wrestler, state champ guy. Didn't know anything about soccer, but decided to coach this soccer team. And I remember you couldn't do this now. But I remember distinctly back then during practices, we'd all be acting up or like people weren't be paying attention. And people were just, we were little kids and we had been practicing for like 45 minutes and just lost attention.
Mhm.
He'd be like, all right, circle up. So we'd all circle up and he'd go, you and you in the middle. And we would, all of us boys would just be
Nice.
going crazy. Let's go. And those two would just be wrestling,
that's
and
so
and then it was back to business,
The
and
Thunderdome.
you couldn't, right? You
Yeah.
couldn't do that now.
Yeah.
But it
That's
was,
hilarious.
back in the 90s, you could do whatever you wanted.
Sure.
USA, baby.
Yeah. Hey, no
We're bringing
water.
it back.
Water.
No water breaks. Yeah, no water breaks.
That's right.
Yeah.
Run until you puke.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Hey, balance, right? Like
Yeah.
obviously some of that stuff was a little extreme, but obviously too, I think we maybe erred on the other side sometimes.
I think we're evening back out. I
Yeah,
really do.
absolutely.
I'm getting this sense of evening back out to like a fine median normal.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Anyway, so you eventually you did become aggressive.
Yeah.
Obviously, to
Yeah.
become a D1, D2 college defender.
Sure.
So when did that switch happen?
My dad says 8th grade, all of a sudden there was a scuffle going on in the field, and he couldn't believe it because I was in a fight with somebody.
Nice.
Like, my boy.
Yeah, I had glimpse of it, right?
Yeah.
It's just the
Yeah.
consistency. Even with my son, like I think Jackson, I see that more. Like Liam has the benefit of having an older brother,
Yeah.
so that helps. You're getting smacked in the face and stuff in the yard, then you get smacked in the game. You don't care.
There's nothing.
You're like,
Mhm.
let's go, whatever. I'm coming at you harder.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right? Jackson didn't have that, right? So I see myself in him in some of his struggles of unsure about going in all the way and doing those types of things and still being a fair competitive player,
Mhm.
And I'm sure I had moments of that throughout, but really that switch had a lot to do with puberty, man. Just my body changing and stuff and starting to come more into a young man or trying to be a young man at that age.
Right.
Right. So, but going back to the soccer thing, and that's, I guess twofold, the influences I had in my life, like the coaches that I really kind of clicked with. I started to have some success on the field because some things changed physically as well as mentally for me.
Mhm.
I had been around it and had a good foundation of being in club soccer and having good coaches, which I think was huge to give me a technical platform to be
Mhm.
able to compete at a high level. And then when I was, so making that switch, it was about like 9th grade. Hey, I ended up playing high school and then club ball and ended up being ODP, but going overseas
Oh, wow.
when I was 16 and 17 for some international tournaments with our Erie team, which was crazy because
That's
of these
cool,
guys'
yeah.
connections. That really did it for me then.
Sold you.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. And going to some big matches. Like I got
Yeah.
to see Ajax in 1996 And so this is shortly after they'd won the European Cup, and they
Oh,
still
that's
had
crazy.
some amazing players like the De Boer twins and, Jari Litmanen and Edwin van der Sar.
Van der
I was at the
Sar?
game
Right.
when
Van der Sar.
Van der Sar was still with Ajax
That's
before he
crazy.
went to Juventus.
How was
It was
the
nuts.
how was the fans for you?
That's one of the
Yeah,
things
that's
that
what I'm
did it
saying,
for
like,
me.
Yeah.
I mean, you're like, nothing compares. I'm
Mhm.
sorry. The closest thing that I've been to is college football here in the States,
Mhm.
Yeah.
just because of the pageantry, the traditions, and all that. Just the fact that like there's these guard dogs, I'm 16 years old, like what's going on here?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there was lots of interesting smells in Holland as a 16-year-old in the stands. But then also the abuse the ARs are getting, just the passion, but also like, the terrorist like songs and
The
these types of
chants.
things,
Yeah.
like there's a lot of, I don't know. It's like true. It's from the heart, and these things that are passed on like for dads and
decades.
sons and decades, and you can just feel that.
Yeah.
And then just the fact that for me, soccer, I say to the boys, soccer, everybody gets a chance to be the quarterback, right?
Mm.
Everybody gets a chance to make the decision whether it's really more of a player's game than
Mhm.
a coach's game. The coaches have influence, no doubt about
Yeah.
it, right? But once that whistle blows,
It's all on the player.
yeah, you're the one that has to, because it's too late if the coach is telling you what to do on the field,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Way too late. Yeah.
Like, they get to say, hey, I'm going to pass now or dribble now or shoot now, right? Or where I
Yeah.
need to be on the field. So all those things I just absolutely fell in love with the game and, ended up getting to a point where I had a chance to go play in college and took it. So,
Where'd you go to college?
Yeah. Next steps.
okay. So I ended up signing with Canisius College.
Where's that?
It's in Buffalo, New York.
Buffalo. Okay.
So they are a private school, but they're Division One. And hindsight is 2020. I'd say that choice was probably not the best for me, but
Did they
Look.
they recruited you, or
Yeah.
did you just go there? Okay,
no,
so
yeah, absolutely.
how was your
yeah.
recruiting process? Like, how was that for you?
Yeah, so look, I ended up getting some playing in regionals, so I did pretty well. I ended up Wisconsin at the time. Around that time, had won a national championship. I had gotten a letter from them, so
Oh,
that
nice.
was pretty cool. But really, I tell you what, Mercyhurst, John Melody, and this is kind of where I was going with that. It's just he an Irish guy, like was my club coach in Erie. They wanted me the most, and Canisius did. And it was a new coach coming in where there was a chance to play early. And that was very, very attractive to me.
Mhm.
Oh, nice.
Also, the scholarship, because academics, believe it or not, I actually did pretty well with school. I could have done better if I would have applied myself. No question about it.
Oh, yeah.
But I had an opportunity to have a nice scholarship at a private school and get a chance to play early. And he also was bringing in some young players like myself that like he wanted to turn the program around.
Put his stamp on.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I went there and I didn't make the most of that opportunity.
Mm.
No question about it. Like going back, like I let myself get distracted with things that weren't of my best interest. There's no question about that. But I'm grateful for it because it helped me become a better man, you know, and the man that
Grow
sitting-
from there. Yeah.
Oh,
Learn from it, grow from it. Yeah.
absolutely. And humility. I needed that humility. You know, I had done some things to be on the right path leading up to that point. And I think some of that kind of went to my head like, oh, I'm going D1,
Mm.
you know? And like, I think also as parents, we have to be careful of falling in that trap because having coached at a Division II school and having kids that were close to signing with us, but ended up going to D1 just so they could go to D1. And then they hardly ever played and then they ended
Mhm.
up quitting.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Mhm.
I think it's just important to find that right fit from an athletic standpoint, if you're going to school to play athletics, but also academics.
Yeah.
And just to be quite frank, I went there to play soccer.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, I wasn't going to school to go to school.
Yeah.
And like, you kind of got to go to school if you want to play soccer as well.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
You know, and I always did better when I was playing soccer academically. But I also didn't go there with like an idea that, hey, I'm going there to play soccer and this is an avenue for me to get an education in something that's going to lead to something else.
Yeah.
So I ended up floundering a little bit. Definitely played, especially as a freshman. The second year, I was used to a culture of just different winning, and it just wasn't. And again, I put the blame more on me
Yeah.
for making poor choices. The environment just wasn't a good fit for me. And so my old club coach, Marco Kuhlman, Dutch guy, took over Franklin Pierce, and I went to go play for him there. And the soccer experience was phenomenal. I mean, one of the guys that I played with ended up getting drafted by New England Revolution in the first round.
Nice.
His freshman year, he's a kid from Montreal, Canada.
I'm about to say a lot of international players.
Very
Franklin Pierce.
international. I mean, honestly, Franklin Pierce, we would have beat Canisius Division I school.
Yeah.
And that can exist today. I mean,
Right.
you talk about NAIA, Lindsey Wilson. I mean, now there's like Icelandic guys with their families on the sidelines,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, come on. I played with a guy that was a 27-year-old German guy that played in the 3rd division. And here I am as like, at that time, 20-year-old American kid.
Mhm.
You know, life experience,
Right.
Yeah.
just that in itself, right? But then also playing with professionals. But that really helped me in my game. It definitely took my game to another level. The unfortunate part was my school and my family had moved down to South Carolina in 98 when I graduated from, and I just, that support, man, is huge.
Yeah.
The family support. And it was a 10-hour drive away. And really looking back, that was not the best thing for me.
Mhm.
Got you.
I wasn't mature enough to handle that distance. I needed to have some times where I could just get away from it all
Mhm.
and reset. Because things for me in my life, like coming back home several times has reset because my parents are amazing people and
Right.
very supportive.
Sure.
For sure. And that just was what I needed, I guess. So the Franklin Pierce thing worked out soccer wise. One thing that really crushed us was it's in Ringe, New Hampshire, or crushed me was in Ringe, New Hampshire. And that season, number one, I didn't go in fit. I was in the starting 11 in preseason. I pulled my hamstring, so I got injured, and then I couldn't work my way really back into the side.
Mm.
So my playing time was pretty limited. Then also, there's a bubble complex at that time that housed like all the weights and, you know, they had like badminton courts, indoor soccer, all this stuff.
Mhm.
And in fact, my coach at the time, because I was into like, you know, my dad was always looking and encouraging, like, what else can you do outside of your normal practice? Right. And really instilled a fantastic work ethic into me and my family, really, and showed that. So I was going in high school at one point before school started to get my workout in with
Nice.
him, which like hugely paid off. So at any rate, Marco's like asking me, like, hey, can you come up with a training program, the coach? You know, I'm a player for the guys and show us how to lift and all this kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
That's awesome.
and I liked it, you
Yeah.
know.
Mhm.
But and I love the indoor facility and all that because it's just Ringe, New Hampshire. There's nothing there.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know,
I know.
right?
Yep.
so you've been there.
I've been
right?
there.
Yeah. So you know what I'm talking about. This bubble complex collapsed because of record snowfall. So it
Jeez.
did not exist then through this
Man.
whole winter month. And I went back home and I talked with my parents, and they're just like, it was just that decision of like, hey, come back home, come to Anderson. So I made it that decision at that time. My spring, I had the most amazing spring semester because I must have thought I was a professional soccer player because all I did was play soccer and hardly go to class, which
Yeah.
really hurt me in the long run.
Oh yeah.
But was great for my soccer, and it was awesome. And then I ended up in Anderson.
Wait,
yeah,
so when you transferred to Anderson, did you play there or was that it?
So I never played at Anderson, so I have a year of eligibility.
Hey,
call 'em up,
baby.
dude. So I'm gonna
Call
talk.
'em
Look,
up.
I mean, Michael Zion is the head coach there now. Was a player when I ended up being a coach there. You know, I ended up getting my life on the right track. A big piece of that is beautiful Cindy Morris
Nice.
Mm.
helping me getting my grades where I needed to be, where they hired me on as an assistant coach, and was there for 5 years because of it. Rob Miller, another amazing individual, saw something in me. He's now the head coach of Converse, and they just got their first bid into the NCAAs.
Yes.
Shout out to Rod. They're playing today. So I was just texting him this morning. Congrats. Because he probably, I mean, the dude helped save my life
Nice.
because he took me to an FCA where I gave my life to the Lord Jesus Christ.
It's awesome.
And that was a huge thing for me because I had fallen away from that,
Yeah.
how I was raised.
So
yeah.
I've got a couple questions.
Sure, go ahead.
Because I want to, while we're at this topic, I think this would be a good topic because we haven't really addressed it too much yet in episodes. So, you know, a lot of parents listening to this, they have children who aspire to be a college athlete. They're doing all the right things, right? They're going to soccer, they're going to supplemental training, but they're still kids, right? They're not getting into trouble yet. They're still living at home. They're still kind of sheltered. You know, they're probably, if they're in high school, they're probably missing out on some high school parties that normal kids would get to kind of get some of that partying out of their system, or maybe at least get used to it. So when they go to college, they don't go absolutely nuts,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Because that happens, right? You see
Mhm.
these kids who are super sheltered, don't ever do any partying in high school. Then all of a sudden they're in college and they're
Go
exposed
wild,
to it and they
yeah.
go wild.
Mm.
And it sounds like that happened to you.
Yeah, on some level it did. No, don't get me wrong. Like, so it's just, I've been in waves, right, in my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
And I think I've said this to several parents, even today. Like, think about the trajectory of your life. Is it just straight up vertical?
No, it never is.
No, it's like up and down, and it's
Yeah.
up and down. And the same thing with me, with my walk with Jesus. And, you know, I had moments early on in the beginning of high school where I started partying. And then I got myself more disciplined where I needed to be. And
Yeah.
a big piece for me was my walk with the Lord. And then also towards the end, again, I think it goes to just not being humble.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I thought like kind of made it because I signed a Division I college soccer scholarship,
Yeah.
you know, and then I did grow up in a pretty controlled environment, no
Yeah,
doubt.
Sure.
But at the same time, I made every bad choice I ever made.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, but you're right. I think giving our kids the ability to fall flat on their face at times is hugely important.
That's good, bro.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
That was my question. It's like, how do you know, you want to have your child succeed, especially if they've been working at this for so long and they finally do sign that D1 or D2 scholarship. How do you prepare them for those challenges of actual college life? You
Yeah.
know?
So here's so my dad gave me this book.
Mhm.
So he's always like into helping us athletically, but also just like with our life.
Mhm.
So growing up, Colt McCoy, you guys know Colt McCoy.
Mhm.
His dad and him wrote this book. And the biggest thing I took from that is some parents try to prepare the path for their child, manipulate things so they aren't experiencing pain and failure,
Right.
Yeah.
right? And some parents, what we've tried to do is prepare a child for the path that lies ahead.
Nice.
And so for me, that's been huge for me in my parenting. And I think also just like coaching, all those things. Like you have to be brave enough as a coach of young players, I figured out, to like let a goal get scored on your team
Mhm.
because you don't tell the kid where to be.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, calmly talk to them about like, hey, dude, remember how we talked about like there's pressure first and then there's cover when you're on the other side and you're way up the field when you're right back.
No cover.
Yeah, there was no cover there.
Yeah.
You know, it's a team game. And so it's hard. And you can't just let your kid fail all the time.
Yeah, for
Mhm.
sure.
Right.
You know, it's a balancing act. I just
Mhm.
feel like parenting in itself is like this crazy,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
For sure.
you're over this chasm and you're on this tightrope and you're just trying to balance it out between those types of things, you know. big
There's a
time.
funny
So,
there's a funny thing I've heard before. You know how the people have always talked about, or not always, more recently talked about helicopter parents and making sure that they're always making
yeah.
sure they're okay. I've heard a new one called lawnmower parents, whereas they literally pave the way. They're like a lawnmower, making it perfect, making their kids'
Yeah.
path
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah,
It's like
absolutely.
not
Can't do
what you
that,
want to
man.
do.
I mean,
You want-
and if I'm honest, I'm guilty of it in little bits and
Right,
pieces here
right.
and there. We all are, because
Oh, yeah, for
why?
sure.
It's
We
coming
want the
from a
best.
place of love.
you
Yeah.
want them to succeed,
Yeah.
but then
the
you
best
got to
Or
help
coaching
them.
on the sidelines. You know, I've been
Looking at it.
no. I'm talking about even myself.
Yeah, we all do it,
Even
man.
today. So you guys, I know you see me sometimes and I'm just away from the field.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm less likely to do that.
yeah.
Mhm.
You know, what I started doing is stay away. And I got that from my dad because I
Mhm.
thought he was crazy. He was up in
Yeah.
the stands away from everybody else, but I get it now.
Yeah,
You know, so I'm less likely to say something while they're playing. But now I started taking notes for them.
Mhm.
And like, let's just talk about it after the game. And
Yeah.
here's some things
like
that
it.
I saw that can help you guys.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and just having that conversation, dude. I get it. Like, I had a dad.
Mhm.
yeah.
I get that. Like, there's this level that you're like, Dad's on me again. Dad's
Mhm.
on me again. Right? It's like, dude, I'm here to help you, and recognize that I've lived 44, almost 45 here in February years.
Nice.
Right? And you're 7 and 10, and so I've gained wisdom.
I know something that you
Right?
don't know.
I just gained wisdom. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
dude, you're smarter than me,
Yeah.
and they are.
Mhm.
I mean, come on, Cindy Morris.
Yeah.
Like, come on, that she's in there.
Oh
right?
yeah, for sure.
So you're smarter than me,
Yeah,
but I have wisdom.
Yeah.
I have this knowledge gained from experience.
Experience,
Mhm.
yeah.
And that's golden, man.
Yeah.
You know, and I just
Isn't
want to
it-
help you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
isn't it so funny? You know, I was just thinking, growing up, you think your parents are so old, right? And now that we're there, it's like, man, I don't feel that far removed from being that kid, right?
yeah,
And
Oh, yeah.
our parents didn't feel that far removed either.
yeah.
No,
You know, it's like you feel like you literally just had those experiences as a kid playing soccer, and just growing up. So yeah, I think I like what you said about, you know, helping your kid but letting them fail. I think that's one of the most important things that any parent can learn to do.
Oh, for sure.
Mhm.
Letting a child fail, whether it be in sport or even in school or in friendship, right, with their friends. Like, you know, there's a big fight at school, figure it out. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not here to help you with that. That's
Sure.
your problem, not
Mhm.
mine.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
so I really
Jackson
love-
just went through something like that.
yeah.
Yeah,
And I remember getting bullied.
Hmm.
And it's like, dude, I mean, I'm partial, but I'm like, dude, if you're a good looking kid, you're athletic, and you get good grades and doing the right things, like sometimes
people hate that.
people get jealous.
Yeah,
People are
hate
mean,
that, man.
yeah.
And it's actually biblical. If you're doing the right things, you are going to get persecuted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for
So
sure.
how do you deal with that? Right.
Yeah. Right.
Absolutely. You know,
Yeah.
and, you know, he had something going on and he did well. And I was super proud of him because the school called and all this kind of stuff. But there was also a piece of something that, like, I felt like, dude, you shouldn't have done that. You know, he was letting a girl swing him around, and they ended up hitting some other kid, which made this other kid mad.
Oh,
and so he
man.
gets mad, but it's like, why are you letting the girl swing you
Yeah,
around? Because you
exactly.
like the attention,
Yeah.
right? Because you like the attention,
Of
which
course.
of course is
Yeah.
natural. But having that conversation, but yeah, you know, I think we have to be brave enough, strong enough, and trusting enough that it's okay sometimes, and it's going to look different all
Oh,
the
yeah.
time, but sometimes it's okay to let kids fail because they learn from that. I learned from my failures
yeah.
way more because guess
Mhm.
what? You couldn't tell me anything there for a
Mhm.
while.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, probably like 16 to 26. You couldn't tell me anything. And I still had a hard time you telling me anything. I
Yeah.
knew it all.
Right.
Yeah,
Dummy.
young masculine man right there.
Dummy.
Mm-hmm.
Dummy.
Well, you know, Tom, tell us about, like, you know, when you at that point that you realized you had to hang the boots up, you know, and then how you got into coaching.
Okay. Yeah. So really got into coaching when I still had my boots on. Marco saw something in me. Marco Coolman. Just my first experience was he was also coaching my younger brother, Matt.
Okay.
Told you, Matt, phenomenal
Yeah,
athlete.
I hear
way better athlete than me. You know, and his team, he did like a little summer like preseason thing in Erie, PA, and he asked if I would come help out. And doing that, I loved it. You know, I like our high school, we lost in the Pennsylvania state final, the highest class at that time, and it was a phenomenal team. And we had this highlight film. My only highlight is like me giving it to
Yeah.
the team at halftime because like I was always okay with talking and
Yeah.
like leading, and the spark in me, I just enjoy seeing people be successful, I guess, and trying to
Yeah.
help them, and in that, and I really enjoyed that experience. So that was the first one, and then coming down to Anderson, I told you about Andrew Hislop.
Yeah.
So CISA was GFC in St. Giles. So Andrew Hislop, one of the co-executive directors of CISA now, was one of the directors at GFC. Him and another guy, Chris Barrett, that's coaching my brother Matt, which helped that connection for sure. Gave me an opportunity to start working with some youth teams, and I really enjoyed that. And then was still at Anderson. So this is at this time where I couldn't play because I didn't have eligibility from the transfer.
Okay.
And then I also didn't have eligibility. I lost my last year of eligibility where I didn't take advantage of that because my grades weren't where they were.
Gotcha.
And that's when Rob Miller ended up giving me a chance at Anderson. I saw something in me, I guess, because I was out there playing and gave me the opportunity to get my grades up and all that. And
That's
then
awesome.
get into my coach's badges.
What year? What are you, a junior at this point?
So that would have been a senior.
Senior?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've been senior. So I'm 21.
Sure.
So really probably 20, 21,
Sure.
that age, which is pretty young, really.
Yeah.
And then Rob encouraged me to go get what would be the equivalent of the C. But I got mine from the National Soccer Coaches Association of America, NSCAA.
Yeah.
And I got what is called the National, which is the equivalent of the C. So you had to go stay for a week with these other people trying to take the course, and then they had college coaches that were, they were the instructors. So they put on sessions. They talked about the methodology of how you put on a session. Okay, and then you'd get a topic, and then you'd have to go put on a session with the other coaches as the players.
Oh wow.
And so I did quite well in that. I got what you would call, it was called like the highest pass somehow.
No, I've seen her coaching on the
And-
sideline, man. You're strict.
Yeah, I don't know. I just it's again, I just as a light for me. I
But I
enjoy it.
But I
love
can
it.
tell one thing, like when you're coaching, you're in your element and you're having like the best time ever.
Yeah, no, absolutely,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I loved it. I absolutely loved it and did well. And then went on to go get my my what would be equivalent of a B. And then I stopped there just because, at CISA ended up getting, well, I'll be honest with you, I probably should have gone and got more. I probably should have pushed myself to go do more. I used the excuse if I was too busy, which we can make time for anything we want. if
So
we're
you
honest.
so you were there before the merger.
So yeah, with the GFC and then at Anderson University. And then I left Anderson University to work with a very good friend of mine, Vaughn Bethel, who played at Furman. He played with the Bahamian national team.
Mhm,
I met
legend.
him playing indoor because there was right in Five Forks, there used to be a bubble complex.
Yep.
Look at that little connection that he was managing at that time. They rented it out from the tennis crew. Now it's like I don't know, like a doctor's care kind of place
Okay.
right there in the corner of Scuffletown. But he had a PASL team, Premier or Pro or something like that, Arena Soccer League. It was basically semi-pro. It's a bunch of guys in the area that had played college ball.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And he said, "Hey, why don't you come on, be player coach? We'll start this little like soccer academy where I just did like training and used." So I studied kinesiology at Anderson.
Okay.
I was able to take some of that and then really work with Vaughn, right? Take some of that books, but learn from him how to train people, speed, agility, quickness, because he had a gym. It was called Performance QSA. So then he had the Performance Indoor,
Okay.
and I ended up running the leagues. We had the semi-pro team. I was doing small group training, kind of like the 90 plus, like Juan.
See?
Yeah.
Way
Shout
back
out
then.
Juan.
Hey, dude, Juan is a great guy. It was great reconnecting with him recently at the Fields.
Nice.
What a good dude and doing great work.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, see it
Mhm.
in what you guys are doing. But anyways, it's like that with some speed and agility in there. And then a super cool experience I'm super grateful for. I got to coach my brother, Matt, who was playing at College of Charleston at the time in the NPSL, which was like a semi-pro. There's a team in Atlanta. There's a team in Huntsville, Alabama. There was a team in Savannah. There was a team in Charlotte area, and we just played regionally. But a couple guys from Anderson, Wofford, Furman, College of Charleston. I don't think we had any Clemson guys at that time. Maybe South Carolina. But anyways, it lasted 1 year. In 2008, the economy hit, and trying to get sponsorships and stuff, Vaughn was paying out of pocket, so that folded, and that was really the catalyst for me looking to get back into soccer full time.
Okay.
And had a discussion with Andrew Hislop, and that's what led me to go into the junior academy thing. So yeah.
And then once you went to the junior academy, okay, now we're back to where we started.
Yeah.
I'm all over the place.
No,
man.
I
love
think
it.
no, that was great background because now we completely understand your soccer knowledge. So going back to you're with CISA, they merge, it becomes CISA.
Mhm.
You're with the junior academy, and then you decide to basically start farming kids out of the recreational.
I was literally
Yeah.
No, I was.
You were scouting.
I was
You're
literally
scouting.
recruiting from the recreational,
Mhm.
and that's how I think it should be done.
Yeah.
I was coaching my team. I had an unbelievable, a very good friend. So just look, God works things out, all things out for good. And he
Yeah.
brought this guy into the area, Liam Brown from Glasgow. And Liam is just a brother of mine. He's
Yeah.
a great guy. And thank God, because I was out there with 20 kids on my own, like our boys, like some good players and crazy. And I needed help. And he had played at Clayton State. He actually grew up in the Rangers youth program, Glasgow Rangers. So a very good player. Also, great personality, great communicator. And we just hit it off. And so then it was pretty much, we had help as well, but we were, the two of us with the program, with the boys and the girls, starting this new thing and recruiting from the rec. And we would train our teams and we'd play our games within the rec. So I could see kids playing there, take down names and things. Also stick around and watch other games
Yeah.
and try and identify. And then I'm calling parents.
Really?
Hey, oh, absolutely.
So how would a parent respond to that when they're
Some-
getting a random phone call from this guy saying,
I
"Hey,
was
I
watching
saw
your
your
kid
kid
play
play soccer."
Yeah, right. No, and now that you say that,
Yeah.
what a creepster.
Yeah, right.
I mean, look, it was usually complimentary. And obviously I'm telling them, hey, I'm like the director of this program, so at the club. So obviously, just not some random dude. But sometimes it was received really well, and sometimes it wasn't. And sometimes those kids ended up coming out, and sometimes they didn't then, but they did later. And sometimes they didn't at all because they ended up going and playing different sports or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think there should be, if we're doing it right, there should be some sort of identification from the younger ages if you're doing that program of who are the players. I mean, hey man, I did it with when I had Liam's little U62 day.
Dude, I'm
kids
doing it now.
There's kids, yeah, right. Oh, I know. I
He's
see you
farming
guys.
them. He's farming them.
I came to watch y'all's session. I know you guys got some ballers. in
Yeah,
there, right?
yeah.
You should.
Yeah.
And you
Right?
made him play up in the tournament.
Because if you
Yeah,
have
we
that
did.
ability, we should encourage that,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Give them a platform to go be successful with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that was just a brilliant idea of starting the Center of Excellence. We talk about it frequently in here, obviously because our kids are a part of it,
Yeah.
but also just because I had never seen anything like it before. Before coming to CISA, I mean, we didn't have anything like that when I was growing up. I think it's a really cool thing to do to create a competitive platform for these kids who have an edge in soccer, who really want to compete. But you don't, as a parent, you're not really committed to the whole travel part yet, right? Like you want them to have more tough competition, but you're not really wanting to go to Charleston to play that competition yet,
Yeah.
Sure.
So it's a good way to kind of edge into that academy program, and your kids start to develop some real touches with some other real players.
Early, man.
Well, I think you just hit the nail on the head right there, is what you said. You're developing their touches. It's giving them that foundation where, especially if they have that athletic ability, they can go be successful at when they're older, because mastery of the ball is it.
Yeah.
The more you can make that ball do what you want it to do, the more you're going to enjoy the game,
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
and the more you're going to excel, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that has to be the number one focus at that age, besides having fun.
yeah.
Like number one actually should be make it enjoyable so they come back, and number two, giving them the technical skills.
Yeah.
Because playing the game, right? Playing the game as you get older, the tactics and stuff are massive.
Oh, yeah.
But if a guy can't pass the ball from me to Michael,
Yeah, it's a
like, you're
problem.
wasting your time telling him about like the decision to pass the ball. Or
Right.
not, right?
Yeah.
So
I couldn't imagine our kids not being in COE right now and playing rec, and then next year going to junior academy.
Oh yeah, man! Like my U6 group just played in the U8. Me and Colby's U6 group played in the U8 tournament, recreational tournament. So we were playing against our older kids' age, U8, and imagining our kids in that division, recreational division, it wouldn't.
Because if they didn't do COE, they'd be in that.
They'd be
division.
in that
right.
division, and
Yeah.
They'd be in the
be a waste of
U8.
time.
Yeah.
yeah.
So
It'd
they-
be like Jackson's tournament. this
They
weekend.
would have won.
Sort
They
of.
would have won the
Sort
tournament.
of. Really. Yeah.
It wouldn't even be fair.
No, it wouldn't. I mean, really, like it's no good for either team if you're having to call fire like in the first half.
Yeah.
That's been done.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's not good, right?
Right.
Or even like the second half. And part of that is coaches managing the game well, where if the matchup isn't good, we have to, as coaches, recognize what are we here for?
Mm.
We're here to make the players better, especially at the younger ages,
Yes.
right? You have to sacrifice. You want to win every game, but you're not going to do it by sacrificing development.
Right.
Yeah,
You know,
so-
I was saying this it might have been last episode, because doing this podcast really changed this part for me, because for me it's always been about athleticism. It's been about bigger, stronger, faster, because that's the American way. That's like every sport we play,
Yeah.
right? Bigger,
Mhm.
stronger, faster, except for soccer.
Yeah.
It's a
You know,
mind game, man. It's a
Soccer, well, I shouldn't say except for soccer. I mean, every sport probably could value. I mean, hockey, basketball, the more technical skill you have as a younger player, the better. But also, if you're bigger, stronger, faster, it's great, right?
mind. Yeah.
But like in soccer, it's
Your mind.
I've really learned that developing the technical skills is the most important thing, because we've seen it even play out in these young kids, right? Like these 6 and 7 year olds, the ones who are, it's not, I mean, we have kids on our team who are really athletic,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't have the technical skills, and it shows, right? Like
Sure.
it's because they've depended on, I mean,
Their
in their 3 years of sporting life, right? Their speed and their
It's true.
that's all they have. But the kids that really put the time into the technical development are the ones that really shine, and the ones that make the difference at the end of the game.
Yeah, most of the time. And as coaches, I think you have to recognize that. I think Cruyff did that like early on, where he was like, if he's good enough, because they were, oh, he's not big enough. I think they were talking about Xavi, and he was like,
Barca.
if he's good enough, put him in the team.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, and I see that a little bit where I'm like, like, are we just picking the big kids?
Right.
Do
The big
you-
kid's
like-
not always going to be the big kid.
Like, how about like Messi, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
How about one of the most fun player I ever coached at the club? This girl, Carly Thatcher, that's playing for Auburn, that like loved the ball, like could get 100 juggles as an under 9, and challenge them to do different ways of juggling,
Yeah.
right foot only, left foot only, a couple low, one high, and really I got that from Ralph Lundy soccer camp, believe it or not.
Mr. Lundy.
Dude, some of the technical stuff they had
Oh, yeah.
going on for that camp, because he had amazing coaches there.
Yeah.
His
Mhm.
guy Anton Corneal, Trinidad and Tobago, was on the World Cup bench talking about the rhythm with the ball. That's another thing too,
Yeah.
that like really I realized as I got older was like, look at Maradona. He's like dances with
Yeah.
the ball.
I showed
His
Porter.
hips.
I showed Porter videos
Yeah.
of that him at the World Cup with the shoelaces
Yeah.
untied.
Oh,
I'm like, bro, make the ball your best friend.
yeah. But
Mhm.
also just the rhythm of
Yeah,
which they
they
play, the South
dance.
Americans,
Ronaldinho.
It's
Ronaldinho, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
like even like ball dancing.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
Vaughn had one of his friends come in and do this thing. I think he was from Trinidad and Tobago, but it was like a ball dancing thing that I used in training. Just the rhythm of like a pull, push, and you're doing
Mhm.
with a little hop, and then you put some music on.
Mm.
So, like,
rhythm.
The boys like to do, like they came to me, Liam's like, "Hey, Daddy, will you train us?" one time a week. I'm like, okay, cool. It's coming from you. Let's go.
let's go.
So like
Let's do it.
Thursdays or Fridays, we started doing it. And we get in the garage, especially these winter months, and put the music on and doing some of this where you're developing the hip flexors, all the finite movements with the touches on the ball, which are so huge. And I've had this conversation with other parents is like, even if they don't go on to play soccer after this, they're developing like unbelievable athletic skills, balance,
Dude.
all that stuff. And it's, if you don't do soccer and you want to get into it when you're older, good luck.
Yeah, good
You
luck.
know, if you haven't done that.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know?
Yeah, I mean, we do that. I do the same thing with rigs as far as the footwork goes. I'll throw on something with a good beat, and then we take one of those. I don't even know what you call those orange things over there.
I don't know what you're talking about.
The-
The little
arcs
things.
or
Yep.
whatever. Yeah.
And then he has to the arc, and he has to do a certain pattern for like a minute at a time. A minute on, 30 seconds off. A minute on, 30 seconds off to the beat,
Yeah.
and it makes a huge difference.
That's awesome.
Funny thing you just said that. So we just started basketball,
Right.
right? It's awesome, dude. Basketball is like my first love.
Yeah.
And I still love it. I really got into those basketball games yesterday. I was
Nice.
like, man, it was so fun.
I heard a
You
video.
already made a video.
I
too,
heard
didn't
you,
Are you
bro.
coaching? Are you
No,
coaching?
I'm not
Okay.
coaching. No, and that makes it even more fun. Like I'm sitting on the sideline and I'm in the stands, and it's hard to sit down, but it was fun. And what I was gonna say is Wyatt, Colby's son, has never touched a basketball in his entire life.
Wow.
Doesn't know the rules, doesn't know where to go,
Yeah.
doesn't know anything.
Yeah.
But
Had that feet.
his feet,
Did you
his
see his-
footwork was incredible.
Did
When
you
he was
see
on
him defend?
defense, when he was on defense,
Yeah.
it was natural.
Yeah.
He knew exactly how to
Yeah.
defend. His footwork was incredible.
Right.
And I told you that
Yeah,
yesterday
yeah.
during the game, didn't
yeah,
I?
yeah,
Yeah,
It's
And
funny
he's
to
got
wa-
the heart of a lion.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That kid
Oh,
will
yeah.
run through a brick wall. I
It's
love
so
that
funny.
about him.
Whenever he was playing yesterday, because you know how whenever they're that age, if there's a turnover, then they're supposed to. All right, let him dribble down. You go get to your spot. Go get to your position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or whatever in basketball. Well, whenever the ball was turned over, Wyatt was trying to get it back right
Full
then.
court press,
He
baby.
was doing full court press. He was wanting that ball back.
Hey man.
And I think he was like supposed to go to his
They have
his position.
Dude, it drives
was
me
so
insane.
funny,
So this is our first year playing church ball. Last year we played D5 ball, which is, I think, in my opinion, a little bit more competitive, but this is more fun. Church ball. But at this age group, when you're on defense, you have to stand inside the 3-point line. You can't go outside
press,
the three.
yeah.
You can't
Right.
press at all. You have to be
The whole time?
Yes.
Yeah, Jackson did something
Riggs,
similar at the
Riggs
Y and
told
Anderson,
me.
same
Riggs
thing.
told me the night before this rule, and I was like, "There's no way that's right. Like I've never, out of all the years of playing basketball, never had that rule,
Never.
even as like a 5-year-old." And I text Brett. I was like, "Dude, is this a rule?" Because I've been telling my kid, "Just go
the ball."
Get the ball." And he's like, "Yeah, man, it's a rule." I was like, "No
Jeez.
way." But I mean, I get it, kind of, but not really.
Yeah,
I don't
Preparing
know.
the
I
path.
we never
We're
played
preparing
like
the
that.
path.
I
Not
just-
preparing the child.
It's
preparing the
kind of
path.
like
Yeah.
it's kind of like goal kicks, right? Like
Yeah,
it's
like
just like
the
I
retreat line.
the
type
dash
thing.
line.
Yeah.
yeah, it's so
I will say, like Liam and I, like before I left the club there, like part of the goal kicks, it was for the under 8s in particular.
You came up
Where-
with this rule?
No, the retreat line.
Yes, it was you.
No. We had
Oh.
discussions about, especially in under 8s,
Okay.
because under 8s, right? Like the true under 8 rec.
Mhm.
Like we'd have kids that just couldn't get it out. If you had a team that had any kind of athletes, they'd be stuck in front of your goal the
That
whole
is
yeah.
time.
I mean, I
That's
agree
true.
for
You know-
maybe U6,
yeah, yeah.
but U8, like
Under 8, trust me, like it could happen where
Yeah.
you could never get out if it couldn't hit the ball, right? So
Got
at least it connects a pass and
Yeah.
gives you an opportunity to get the ball up
Yeah.
the field a little bit
Teaching them
more.
the
But what
game.
I don't like though is whenever people take advantage of that retreat line and they pass it and they wait and wait.
course.
and
It only
wait
comes
and
at
wait
playoff
and
time.
wait and wait.
That
and
happened to
wait.
us in
and
the
then they
tournament
kick
a
it.
couple
that's
Then they
just
kick over the
bad
whole team.
coaching.
Yeah,
That's just
So
bad
that's
coaching. Like
where
if
it
you're a
frustrates
coach and you do that at
Right.
CISA, you're not a good coach.
of course not.
And I'm saying
Period.
that right here.
I love it.
But
I
you're
love
also-
You're
it.
not a good coach.
But also
You're
keep
not
in
playing
mind-
the system.
Yeah,
You're not doing anything cool. We all see it, and it's super annoying. Don't do it.
I love how you're putting it out there.
Yeah.
Hopefully that
That's not
person
pointed
listens.
at anybody.
But
No,
But
it's just like
it
in
is.
general. Man.
no, we saw it, right?
Yeah.
But also
Yeah.
keep in mind those are recreation coaches that are volunteering their time.
They want to win.
And I respect that
Amen.
100%
I
if
get
they're
that.
volunteering their time, number one. And just look, that's just losing sight of, because I've seen it where, they're not going to play every kid. You
Yeah.
know, it's all about the winning
Mhm.
at under 8 recreation.
It's not about the development.
You know, that's come on, like we got to be better than that. So
Yeah.
it just depends on the individual, of course. And yes, I'm not on board with that at all. You know,
Mhm.
that's just and true. That's also like I found like coaching that age, like we could set things up to win more games at that age
Mhm.
that sacrifices development.
Yeah.
We're just
Right,
gonna
100%.
boot it long and get it forward and get
Boot
the
it.
kid that you know can smash it and he's always playing up front and all this kind of stuff. Or we can be brave enough to do it the right way. Where
Right.
if a kid even at under 8, we'd have them pay back to their goalkeeper's feet. I'd encourage when the ball's up on the other end, we're gonna press up the field.
Yeah.
And we're going to have our right back get forward,
Mhm.
and he's going to have to get back. But the left back needs to slide to the middle and
Mhm.
cover,
Tactics.
and then the ball goes to the other side, and we're coming back.
Yep.
Well, it's just
Yeah.
the principles of the game that
Oh,
I think
yeah.
are applied, no matter what the tactic is, right? And it happens at the higher level. We're going to do it at the younger level, and we're
Mhm.
going to lose some goals because of it, but we're going to learn from it.
Yeah.
And then you'll be
You know?
unstoppable once you kind of get that
Yeah,
under
that's
control.
true.
Yeah. I've seen it.
I agree. I see both sides. It just sucks.
Yeah, no, it stinks. Like when you're playing against somebody that is manipulating the intent of that rule for victories at under 8, and then our kids suffer from it.
Yeah.
But I
Mhm.
still think they'll come out better in the end.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right. The intent of the rule is there. The taking advantage of the rule is where I have a problem.
Yeah.
And we all know who these people are.
David, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
What do you think? What are your thoughts on the little boys basketball scores?
Oh, I hate it.
Let
So,
me
all right, I'm going to
preface-
let loose.
you-
All right,
you want me to say
can
what it was?
preface,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
So the little boys, they're playing basketball right now as well. And I guess it's just their age. I don't know. What are they? 4, 5, 6? or
So
something?
it's K4, kindergarten, and first grade.
Yeah. So 4, 5, 6, that age group, y'all are gonna die. I was speechless whenever I found this out yesterday at the game. If either team scores,
don't
they
count.
both get points.
What?
So it's a tie game the
So
whole
it's a tie game. So if it's
What?
if it's me versus David,
Now, that's
I shoot and
crazy.
score.
What are we
both
teaching the
get points.
kids, man?
I have
If he
no
shoots
idea
and
what we're
scores,
teaching these
no.
kids.
we both get points. So
I
the
can't
game
get
is
on board with
always
that at all.
tied.
Somebody
Dude.
has to lose.
You,
There has to be a winner
Yeah.
and a loser.
it
So
was
it's just-
so
We're playing the
funny.
game.
It teaches the kids.
Yeah,
the
you got to learn how to
values.
win,
and
and
how
you
to
got to learn how to
lose.
lose.
You have to.
Absolutely.
But all the parents on the
crazy.
sides, or the ones that we were kind of around, I was there was just chatter. I was like, "What's going on?" It's like, "We don't think the score is right. We don't think the score is right because it was tied." We're
So
like,
it's
"How
just
is it tied?" And we found out anytime one person scored, they both got points. We're like,
That's
so
what hurt
confused.
anybody's
feelings.
Yeah.
So when your kid
They
came up
love
to you, he's like, "Who
feelings.
won, Dad?"
What do you think Alex said?
like? But what do you say to your kid? Like, did we win, Dad? What do you say?
We said that, yeah, you won.
Yeah, we said that.
Dude,
Y'all scored the
I'm
most.
keeping my own score.
Every time Saxon would score a basket, he'd look up at the scoreboard and then he'd look at me with this really confused
Like, what is
look.
going on, Dad?
Yeah.
Like he did. He was like, "Wait."
especially Saxon.
Yeah,
that dude's
Mr.
a beast.
competitor.
Yeah.
He can play on my team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's-
I
dude,
love his mentality.
He's a little baller. It's
Yeah.
fun to watch.
For
He's
sure.
but the scoreboard thing. Even the little kids, they keep track in their head
They
who's
do.
winning
Of
and
course.
who's losing.
Sure.
When you watch a basketball game
Yeah.
and Steph Curry makes a 3 at the end, he's looking at the clock to see the time and the
Yeah.
score. Like,
Right.
Yeah, that's wild.
I just-
McLean was
That's
keeping score.
crazy.
Yeah, I can't get behind that, and I never will get behind
No.
that.
Mm.
So, in case you're wondering, we won 8-2.
okay,
The scoreboard said 10-10, but we won.
I think
8-2.
it was. I think
Nice.
there was like what 5-minute quarters or something like that. So yeah, 8-2.
these games get intense in church ball though.
The,
Man.
the baskets were kind of high for these little kids too, but
Yeah.
I mean it was fine. You know, we scored, so it was good.
And we weren't there for the end of the game before theirs because we were at the big boys game.
Right.
But Alex was telling me that the game before theirs, the score was 2-2, which means
One.
it was
basket
2-0, which means there was one basket scored the whole game.
That's rough.
And I'm
Watching that, oh my
"Man."
God.
Jackson did basketball when he was younger like that, and there were some low scores, but he also ended up being on this team with ballers. Some of the dads had played college ball, and like I was like, oh man, you might be the weakest link.
I just.
But it was a
you
great
know,
experience for him.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And he worked on, and he ended up like scoring buckets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
great. Like anytime we can get out of our comfort zone,
Mhm.
you know, like we have a natural tendency. We all do it, right? We want to live in comfort. But we get better by getting out of our comfort zone,
Yeah.
which has been cool for me with the boys. We've done flag football here, kind of sandwiched in between the seasons. They've been asking for that, and also seeing, like Cindy's like, holy cow, you're right. Like soccer, really, like the boys have done well, and you can just see little things like playing safety, being able to drop. And understanding, like not letting the ball go past you, like keeping it in front, just little things like that, reading the game and stuff like that, where they're doing well, So I just think, soccer. Obviously, I'm very biased, but we'll certainly, if they go on and play whatever they go on and play, if they play anything after that, hopefully they do. Soccer will definitely help them with other sports for sure. So,
now speaking of soccer, I got a question for you, man. How do you feel about American soccer?
how do I feel about American soccer? I love American soccer. I am all about watching our national team because I have this hope. I live in the hope. I'm very optimistic, sometimes to a fault. That one day maybe we'll lift a World Cup.
It's coming home.
I think it's much better than it ever has been in my lifetime.
Yeah.
I think what's really made a huge difference, and I can relate on some level, just like my Franklin Pierce experience of if a kid is good enough now in a big market, 15, 16, maybe not playing, but just even training with professionals.
Giving them the chance.
I mean, they get a chance to play with professionals. We didn't have that opportunity growing up.
Right.
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 You know, that's huge.
For sure.
And that's why I think too, like, look, so Michael Zion and Serge down at Anderson University, my boys have done their camp, summer camp. Give it a chance. If you're ever down at Anderson, or if that makes sense for you and your family, they're great. They have a great program, but they also have some pickup going on in the summertime. And I've taken the boys out to they even slide in with our with the big guys, the adults playing for like the last 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And guys are super respectful
Absolutely.
and encouraging them. But I think that helps.
Yeah.
Just being on the field with other people, seeing the calm on the ball, all that stuff.
How fast the
You
game
know?
is.
Yeah, how fast the
Yeah.
game is huge. But now, if a kid's good enough, 15, 16, they might be professional.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the 14-year-old playing for Philadelphia. Already signed with
Kevin.
them.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you can see, like, European clubs are now coming and they're scouting big time. I mean, look at how our national team is playing. AC Milan, Juventus. I never thought I would have seen a day when that happened.
For sure.
I never would have thought I'd seen a day when the U.S. dominated possession against Mexico and won games consecutively that way. I know it didn't happen in the last result,
Yeah.
but that was with a week inside,
Right.
But it was
in
good-
Mexico City.
It was
which
good
is
soccer
different.
though.
And Mexico needed to win that game.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, they wanted to win that game. We kind of wanted to win that game. They really wanted to win.
I mean,
that
how
game.
about that game against Jamaica the other day?
they did good, man.
They did great.
They did
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
It
I
looked
mean,
good.
Pochettino,
Well, that's what they're saying. They're saying
I'm a
that
fan of
they,
him.
they
Yeah.
feel like they can. He lets them play more free.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's what I
it's very
I read.
inspiring as well.
Yeah.
That was
And
my next
very,
question.
like,
is
if you
your
look at
thoughts on-
Tottenham,
yeah.
I mean, he took Tottenham and had him in the Champions League final.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, now obviously Tottenham just beat City 4-0.
4-0.
Something.
That was a banger.
Oh my goodness. I was showing the boys James Madison's goal,
Mhm.
the second goal, where he plays a pass and he overlaps Son, and then he gets the ball back with a little
Beautiful.
chip, but he played a pass and he moved. He didn't play a pass and say,
Stand there.
oh, hey, that's a great pass.
Yeah.
Like, you know, soccer's a game of movement.
Yeah.
And so
And
much.
he actually passed. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes I
Yeah.
gotta remember. Yeah, it's good to pass.
And
yeah.
you have the ball less than you do actually have the ball when you're playing, right?
Right.
So, like, what you're doing off the ball is hugely
100%.
important.
Most important.
I mean,
yeah.
I've had the discussion, like, you might even make a run where you don't get a ball, but it creates a goal for your team.
You open
Right.
It creates space.
create space or
It's
makes
huge.
makes the defender
Yeah,
follow
I
you.
can't
makes
wait.
It's like the
defender make a
least.
decision.
Soccer is like the least statistical sport of all time, right? Like you could play an amazing game,
Yeah.
and your name wouldn't even be on the stat line.
This
right?
is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I've had that discussion. Here you
Yeah.
go. For young players, you can be man of the match and not score a goal.
Mhm.
I
Or
mean,
have an
my
assist,
favorite
you
player
know?
of
Yeah.
all time, Roy Keane, like didn't score many early on in his career. He did more box to
Yeah.
box, but I mean, you talk about 1999, the year of the treble, Juventus, away, Man United.
Yeah.
That performance where he didn't get to play in a final, legendary. Like I wanted to be that dude.
He didn't lose the ball that game.
Oh my gosh, scores a
Those nuts.
huge goal.
Yeah.
And just was like an engine for his team
Yeah.
and really drove them on to win that game
Mhm.
where it gave them the platform to play awful in the final against Bayern,
Yeah.
and then play really good at the very, very last like 2 minutes and
Mhm.
win, which was amazing. So
Mhm.
yeah, had to get that in about United and all the glory days, because I'm living in the glory days now.
We are living in the glory days.
Yeah. But
What happened with the meeting on the 22nd? Did they?
Oh, wasn't that?
I've
Yeah.
heard. I've heard.
Oh,
What
20
happened?
I
Today's
heard. I
24th,
don't know
yeah.
if this is, fact check me. You got young Jamie in here to pull something up.
you know,
like,
I've
fact
got my
check or
phone
something?
right here. I can.
Okay. But I heard that they're going to make the switch
Yeah.
to the different age
Yeah.
groups.
They are. They
Yeah,
decided
But
to.
that's,
didn't
what,
they-
that's what I've heard.
But
So
aren't-
again, this is secondhand, so I might
Yeah.
be wrong.
But aren't they gonna pick like a year to start? Like they're gonna start it at a year. Like they're not
I
gonna.
didn't know
Like
that.
transition through.
Yeah, I think that's
hope
what I
so, yeah.
heard, but I don't know if that's true. Is what I'm saying. Because
I don't know.
like, I
Here's
can't
what I
find
say about
anything
all
on it.
that, and this has been huge for me in my life, and when I'm talking to the boys about is
Control
control
the
the controllables. You knew I was
My
gonna
God.
say
We talked
it,
about that,
dude.
yeah.
It's the truth.
It is. It is.
We have no control over that,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but we can control how we react to it.
Yeah.
Right, and like it's gonna be whatever it is. Like, hey, now you're playing in this age group.
Yeah. Now I just
And-
wonder, like, how do you feel about what that means for soccer here, like versus the world? Like, do you think it's a good thing, or there's good and bad on both of it?
Yeah.
But like the world, like,
That's above my pay
Yeah.
grade. Thankfully, I'm not the one having to make that
Yeah, for
decision
sure.
and not having
Yeah.
to deal with the aftermath,
Aftermath,
of
yeah.
making that decision.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful of. Look, like I tell you what really helped me was working at the club,
mhm.
and from a customer service standpoint, like dealing, just okay, working through issues with parents as
Yeah.
opposed to like in business. There's an emotional attachment there.
Mhm.
It's the same thing with this. Like we're emotionally attached to our kid. We
Yeah.
want the best for our kid. We
Mhm.
love our kid, and now something's changing where it could adversely affect us
Yeah.
Mhm.
or our kid,
Yeah.
and it could also positively, depending on what side you're on.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? But like again, we have no control over any of that, so I'm not going to waste my time trying to think about it.
Yeah.
This is it is what it is.
It is what it is.
And like end of the day too, for me, like God's gonna work on me to just say, like, dude, enjoy the experience.
Yeah.
Because like how much time are we really gonna have?
Never
I
know.
mean, like 2024 for me has flown by.
It has.
I'm looking at my kids, I'm like, dude, stop growing.
Yeah. For
You
sure,
know,
man.
Thanksgiving week.
Like
I mean,
we
it's
need
crazy.
to soak it
Yeah.
up and enjoy, because I remember games. Most of the time, the games where I wish I would have done that or done this, or we
Yeah.
lost that game, right? Which
Mhm.
is just unfortunate part of human nature. But also, really, the experiences of being together as a family on the road with my teammates as a family, all those things are
Yeah,
like
man.
what you really like remember, right?
Right.
So
Right.
like we've got to make it an enjoyable experience with
Yeah.
our kids and soak it up, man.
Yeah. Like the road.
Because
road-
before you know it, if we've done our job,
Yeah.
they'll be leaving.
Yeah.
You know.
You'll
So-
never forget those trips, man. Like going to a tournament
Oh my
for a
goodness,
weekend or a
Yeah.
week in Dallas. Like,
Oh, the kids now, like
Yeah.
Jackson now, like travel a little bit, just like him and Liam, like, oh, we're staying at a hotel.
Yeah.
Like that
Yeah,
whole thing
yeah.
and stuff. And there we had a couple, like, just even like a Sunday in Charlotte. Well, the organized games, you go play Charlotte, which is good. So we get some good competition.
Mhm.
But like we've even said, okay, well, we'll spend the night ahead of time.
Yeah.
Even though we didn't have to, just to make sure less stress.
stress
Mhm.
Fighting traffic, all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
already there.
And just that experience
Yeah.
of being together and
Mhm.
going out, it's awesome, man.
It looks like they haven't posted the results yet.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the only thing I
So-
could find was that it's happening November 22nd, but there's nothing
Yeah, they didn't.
Fake
posted.
news.
And today
Somebody
is
give me fake news.
well, the 22nd was Friday. Today's
Yeah.
Sunday, so I'm sure they might announce
Well,
tomorrow.
they had
Okay.
the meeting for sure. I know
Right.
they had the
They
meeting.
did?
Yeah,
Okay.
they had the meeting. Like,
Yeah.
So
I
Well, we'll
mean, I think I just read while I was looking, it said that 40% of players end up being trap players or something like that. Like it's a pretty high percentage become trap players. So I think this, we'll still have like a very small percentage of trap players for, those
Mhm.
instances of kids who are held
August
back
birthday,
or
yeah.
August, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's going to really cut down on that. So
Yeah.
I think it's actually going to be a good thing, especially for recruiting and just make everything a little bit more cohesive for the way that we do things in the USA. And this is, I don't think it really matters what the rest of the world does, because
No,
if you're good enough, you're just going to go play over there anyways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like Kevin Sullivan.
Yeah, it'll all come out in
So-
the wash.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
I don't think it really matters.
No, it doesn't matter. I don't think. No, like I said, Like I think we control the controllables and
I
make
love
it a good
that line,
experience.
man.
And, and like I don't know, that's probably not mine. I don't know where I got that from.
Well,
I got it from
this
somewhere
is
else.
2 weeks in a row that we've heard that.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
So,
Ryan said it.
Yeah,
last
Ryan
time.
said it last time.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
so there you go.
We need to get
It's
like a banner.
it's
or
in the
something.
zeitgeist. Is that what it is? That the right thing saying? The zeitgeist, something like that. It's in the
Yeah.
ether.
Yeah.
Somebody's saying it's going around for whatever reason.
Yeah.
All right. So now that we've kind of made this full circle of life, let's talk about this past weekend. Yeah? The
Yeah.
tournament
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
and how we thought it went.
Yeah.
Sure.
So we had 2 splits, right? We had split 1, split 2.
Mhm.
We were playing in the U10 recreational bracket
Mhm.
in the top 2 brackets, basically. And
Your sons were playing in the top. My son was playing in the second, right?
yeah,
Yep.
Right? I got that right.
Yeah.
So it's high level
High level and
for 7-year-olds.
7-year-olds
playing
playing the
against
U10.
Both
yeah.
groups though.
and
Yeah.
9-year-olds.
both groups, yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought the most interesting thing when it came down to it was, I think the majority of the year, we had every 3 weeks we changed up splits.
Mhm.
Coach just changed up splits, which is good, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
You're playing with the whole team. All the team is playing with different teammates throughout the year. I think that some of the time, I would say the majority of the season, we might have not have been playing the best U10 teams.
Mhm.
So when we weren't playing the best U10 teams, our talent really kind of showed out. We were able to pass the ball, move the ball.
Sure.
But then when we were stuck with teams that could actually play,
Mhm.
in this tournament, we saw some teams that could actually play. They could move the ball. Our kids were kind of like, whoa,
Mhm.
we're not ready
3
for
or 4
this.
games in a row.
We're not
of
ready for
hard,
this.
hard teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we had one kid in the one game we lost 4-0. The one kid scored all 4 goals. He was
And-
just a handful athletically and technically.
Yeah.
The kid was juggling on the
Mm.
field, juggling. And most of I was like huge dad. I have to put this out there because so proud of my son Liam.
Mhm.
Because like kids are sitting there looking at him, going like, what's this
Oh.
kid doing? And
What
he
was-
steps in because he's like, I've seen my brother do this. I ain't having that, and goes in
Yeah.
and takes the ball off him.
Nice.
Good stuff.
But that was that was different
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
your point. I
Yeah,
mean, different.
I think a lot of the teams that we saw had like that one, like you just said, that one really big good player
Mhm.
Mhm.
that kind of was able to take the ball, and at the end, by the end of the second half, it was just our kids were tired and
Yeah.
it
That
was, it was
too.
tough.
Well, come on, like
a long
literally.
season.
But the thing is,
3
like,
steps to one.
Right.
Like you
right.
could see it. Like for us, like Liam split the first game we played was the best they played. They played together. Everybody like was really working hard. They win 2-1,
Mhm.
mhm.
and that team ended up going on to the final. I don't think they won. I don't know. I didn't even look, but
Mhm.
and then you could see the second game afternoon number
Mhm.
1. That's tough. Like I'm way better in the morning, sharper in the
Sure.
morning.
Yeah.
And you can see that with the boys because she's been able to have the guys play 2 games,
Mhm.
and that
Mhm.
makes a difference. So like some of those kids being able to play with Liam's group and vice versa, right? I think definitely makes a
Mhm.
difference when you're kind of, hey, this is the team and this is what we're sticking with.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
don't have that flexibility, right? And then just by the third game, they were worn out. Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This-
Mentally as well.
Yeah.
right.
Mhm.
For
Think
sure.
about focus. I mean, when you play in a big match, like you're drained physically,
Oh, yeah.
but you're drained mentally because you're
Mhm.
having to like be so focused.
Yeah.
And those, like I have enough hard enough time doing that as like almost 45 years
Right,
old,
right.
let
Yeah.
alone 7 years old.
No, I
Can't
feel that.
imagine.
My kids got a attention span of a flea sometimes.
Yeah.
you know, so
It was fun though. I think we should give out a shout out to the winner of our bracket, Team Kennedy. I mean, they were the undisputed number 1 seed going in, and they
Mhm.
ended up winning the whole thing. I think they went undefeated during the
Nice.
tournament. And the cool thing about Team Kennedy, which I didn't really know until recently, I think a lot of those kids have been playing recreationally on the same team since like U6, I think.
Since the YMCA.
Yeah, okay, since the
U3.
YMCA. So I mean that's
They
a
knew
test.
each other. They have.
I mean,
team
it's pretty
cohesion,
cool
yeah.
though, like to keep the same kids on the same recreational team all the way up to U10. Bypassing COE, bypassing. I mean, I think they would be eligible to be academy at this point, right?
Some of the kids
Yeah.
on the team can go up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, they had definitely like you could tell that they had played together, and it was, it was well coached, and there are good.
You don't have to go COE.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
Here's a good story about that. Like, so I had this group of girls, and they went up to under 9, and at under 9, I ended up keeping the majority of the team that was with us as under 7s. And there was some very, like, talked about Carly Thatcher, some other girls that ended up going on and playing Division I soccer from that group. And then you had this other part of the group that great kids, worked super hard, ended up being pretty good soccer players for their age at that age, right? So tryout came along. These other girls came through that were better athletes. They weren't at that time better soccer players.
Mm-hmm.
At the second split at under 9, and we lost to the top split of the red group. I've been there because they had gotten some training. Then you're a better athlete. And when it came to tryout time for under 10, guess what?
Flip-flop.
I had to say sorry, but these kids that have been with me for a couple of years, it's better for these kids are better.
Right.
They need to be with the top group.
Right.
And I went from, the greatest coach ever to they're calling the office, and I heard the phone calls of just trashing me. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Because again, people get very emotional about it all, but questioning, where before I have these emails of like, oh, you're so great. Oh, that's right. You got to take all that with a grain of salt.
Oh yeah.
And then because at that time, then all of a sudden, hey, now I'm saying, and I made the phone call and talked to the person, and lots of questions. Talk about tough phone calls. I think it was important, right? I'm not going to run from it. I'm going to run to
Right.
it because I thought it was the right thing to do, and turned out to be the right thing to do because those other players came into the group, and by under 12 were on my top team and still on my top team. And some of those girls went on to play Division I college soccer.
But that's a good coach though.
Okay.
But you don't feel like that's a good coach. You made the right decision.
Yeah, I think
like for kids.
Yeah, I mean, and
You know,
sometimes look, you might pick probably 85. All of us, if we look at a team, we probably look at like 85 to 90% and pick them all. And there's always going to be a kid or two that like we'll split hairs over.
Yeah.
And like you might prefer this player because you see them here,
Mhm.
or I might prefer that player because I see him there. So there's that element too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right. So it just, I've seen that with players that I know, even from our club, went on to play in MLS, but they didn't stay there. Like a guy like who drafted you all of a sudden gets fired. What happens then?
Right.
And
Yeah.
I think you have to understand that. Like, is that our end game?
Yeah.
Like, if that happens, that would be wonderful, right? For one of the kids, right? But like, we shouldn't be hyper focused on that. We should be focused on the intangibles of how they work on the team, how they win, how they lose, all these things again, that's going to prepare them for the path ahead rather than that end result.
Yeah, just to be
Because
a
it's
good
gonna-
person.
Because so much can happen,
Yeah.
timing, all those things. People got to realize that too. There's a ton of amazing players that, ended up not playing professionally for
Right.
whatever reason,
Yeah.
injuries, all those types of things.
I
So
gotta-
that's going to end for everybody at some
Oh, yeah.
point. What can you use from this experience that's gonna carry you in every experience as you go on in life?
Yeah.
If we're focused on that, I think we can't lose. So
That's true.
Yeah.
I know a kid that was amazing and he quit to go snowboard.
yeah,
He played
and he chose
since
that
was-
path.
Yeah.
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 Oh,
There's
absolutely.
Nothing wrong with that, but
Nothing wrong with that.
now he goes and plays pickup and kills people. It's this is beautiful, man. The sport teaches you so much.
Yeah.
Besides just the playing it,
Absolutely. Yeah, I think for sure all my experiences in life, sports wise, my family, huge piece of all that, really, really has helped me with business, and also being a father and shepherding the kids and all those types of
Yeah.
things, So
I know this is a long episode, but I feel like I've got so many more questions. Have
Come
you got
on, man.
time?
dude, I've got all the time in
All
the
right,
world.
so-
right now.
I do want to address, you and I had this conversation a couple
Uh-oh.
weeks ago, where we were addressing the different, we've got the black, the red, the
Mhm.
white, the whatever, the blue. I don't even know how many colors there are as you go up, right?
Yeah.
And I made the statement, if my kid isn't, if my kid's playing blue or white and there's 2 levels above him and they're 10 and I'm paying the same exact amount as the people who are on the red or black,
Mm.
Like, is it really worth it, or should I just have my kid play recreation at that point?
Mhm.
And to your point, you unknowingly of myself said Jackson was on the white team last year. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you explained how beneficial being on the white team for your son really was. So
was
talk
awesome.
about that. Like, talk about,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of parents that are listening to this who, their kid might have been, maybe they started COE or whatever, or maybe they just did recreational. They didn't want to do COE, and then they finally do the tryouts for the academy. And instead of making the red or the black team, they are on the white team. And they're like, well, he's on the white team, or she's on the white team, so we're not playing. We're just going to stick with recreational.
Right.
And honestly, that might have been my mindset too.
Right.
So talk about that.
Yeah. So, okay. Liam had a chance to go out for COE because Jackson was already there.
Mhm.
I mean, we travel from Anderson area,
Mhm.
as you guys know. So that's honestly, I was trying to hold off coming up this way and make it as long as we could.
Yeah.
And, Jackson did recreation, and he did CISA Tri-County recreation.
Okay.
Which is great. Greg Land is very good. I mean, look, hey, I have to put this out there because Pierce Dormy, I haven't mentioned him. He runs him and Andrew, but Pierce, like on the business side of things, is heavily involved and does phenomenal. We are so blessed to have those two guys and Minahan and all the directors there. Really, what they've done is just amazing. And I've got all the time in the world for Pierce because when my dad got sick with pancreatic cancer, he was the first phone call to check on me. One of the first phone calls to check on me through that whole thing.
Wow.
Awesome.
He's a very hard man, tough to work for at first. Once you gain his respect, though, amazing guy.
Yeah.
And he's done an awesome job with that organization. And it's trickled down to having these satellites, right? So we did Tri-County, which is closer to our house in the Wren area. And, Jackson did rec. He ended up getting recruited to play up in the rec from one of these coaches that had him at under 8. So he could have played his second year of under 8 rec, right? Because the rec is really it's under 7 and under 8 age group, right? Under 10 rec is under 9 and under 10. That's what our boys kind of run into with playing 2 years ahead, right? So anyhow, Jackson plays up, and it was just not a good experience because Jackson wasn't ready for that, and the coach ended up not playing him. He played him less than half a game sometimes. I'm like, this is crazy. So I'm like, I'm going to go back in. We're going to take him back to under 8, and I'll coach the team. And he did really well to the point where I'm like having to hold him back in some of the games. So it was finally like, okay, let's go out and try out. And what I saw at the tryouts was kids that had been in the COE knew what it was like to just be in a training session from a professional coach. And that makes a huge difference, right? Because, he'd been with me coaching him at rec, but at rec, you can have a kid way, way up in ability, and you can have a kid way, way down in ability. And that's okay. That's what it's designed for.
Right.
It's just like teaching. And the idea is same thing. The methodology with picking pools and what pool they're in. The idea is the player at the top level shouldn't be way ahead of the player at the bottom level, right? Because it's harder to have a good session and where those kids are going to be able to develop it. It's putting them in a place where they can develop, get challenged, but also have success. So Jackson ended up he goes out. Just that whole experience was great for him. He didn't know anybody. We're coming from the Anderson area. He was scared. I didn't want to do it, Dad. He went from doing really well and then going, I want to try this. Because of course we asked him.
Of course.
Okay. Then when he starts to realize I'm going to be out there at this trial, I don't want anything to do with this. Right. But still getting out of his comfort zone and going through that whole process. And then of course, once he got a call that he got selected for, just to see his face was amazing. Yes, I want to do it. Of course I want. I'm like, wait a second. You said you didn't want to do it, dude.
Yeah.
So that was amazing. Right. And look, you had these kids from the COE that certainly were way ahead of him for all those reasons, just playing and competing against each other. Right. You see our boys. I think our boys have made each other. Iron sharpens iron, man.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And you can see that in that group big time. I mean, there's some personalities in there. It is
Oh,
fun to
yeah.
watch practice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so fun to watch them, and they do it in a great way where they really respect each other,
Mhm.
which is super cool already at that age. They get into little things and stuff, but they leave it
That's
on the
just
field,
boys.
man.
Mhm.
Just
Yeah.
being boys,
Yeah.
which is awesome. So anyhow, back to Jackson and that experience. His first coach in the fall was great. You know, he just the experience of being in that whole group was good. The coach ended up getting in over his head, had to peel back and end up we got another coach, Ralston Moore, who Ralston played at Clemson. I played with some adult league with him. Great guy. Primarily was coaching girls. He's now coaching boys, I think, because of that experience having to cover because this other guy had overcommitted and like halfway through the year. So Jackson goes and plays with him. And Jackson was playing, you know, they did the split thing. I mean, more often than not, Jackson was playing the split one and doing well, you know. And when it came to the selection time, tryout time, he was not selected for the red pool where a lot of kids moved up that Jackson had been playing with. And that was hard on Jackson.
Mhm.
It was hard on Cindy and I, if I'm honest,
Mhm.
because I didn't agree with the selection. But big
Yeah.
deal. I wasn't the coach.
Mhm.
I wasn't making that pick,
Yeah.
right? So we had a choice. It was like we can either say, hey, we're not doing this, or we're going to stick in there and say, it was a good, like, can we use this for good? Again, it's a bit of a failure, like, in a sense,
Yeah.
right? And how do you deal with when things don't go the way you want them to be? Maybe this is part of the story that makes Jackson better. And it did, because he was motivated to put extra work in a different way.
Yeah. On his craft.
And he has done it. And it's been amazing. And we had an absolutely amazing coach in Coach Luckman Hassan,
Mhm.
who, you know, I will be forever grateful for the experience of having him coach my son, because Coach Luckman loves his players. I mean, and puts his heart and soul into his craft. He knows the game for sure. Jackson got better. He got challenged.
Nice.
He also became a better person, which again,
It's number one.
I mean, it's number one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's number one. And guess what? The next year, Jackson got moved up, you know,
Mhm.
and there is movement. There's movement within the group. It happens because kids develop differently.
Yeah.
Things change, you know, and there's going to be kids that lose interest. Guess what? There's going to be kids that come from out of town that are going to be studs
Mhm.
and move
Duh.
in, you know.
And-
So
I've seen
Yeah.
that happen before, man.
That was
Yeah.
me.
Was
No,
it?
but-
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
When I moved in, I guess into a new area in 8th grade.
Yeah.
I was that new kid, and nobody saw it coming. But
Yeah.
you know, it ruffled a lot of feathers. It was hard.
Yeah.
I mean, when I got on that team, and you know, there was players that thought they should be on that team, and then parents, and it was
It's nuts.
a lot, dude.
It's
yeah, and that
nuts.
was in 8th grade.
It's nuts to see how the parents act. 'Cause,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you know, like watching, like, because I was friends with Kevin, you know, and the kid came from Columbia, drove
Yeah.
2 hours to come to their team.
Kevin, I love you, Kevin
Yeah,
Nolan.
yeah, I'll tell him.
Great dude,
But
great
it's just like,
family, all that. Yeah,
I used
sorry,
to go
had
watch
that.
the games.
Yeah.
And they're like, this kid's your teammate. And the parents, like, not saying they hate him, but it's like they dislike this kid because he's good enough to be on this team.
Mm.
But they just been together for so many years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I
that's-
get it though. Like
That's
it,
nuts to me, man.
it would be tough. I mean, imagine like our kids playing together all
Yeah.
these years, and then all of a sudden this kid moves in from out of town and kicks one of the kids off
Yeah.
the team. That
Or
would
even
be
doesn't
rough.
even have to move in, because I mean, there's kids like I'm from Greenwood, and there's kids from Greenwood who come up to play CISA 3 times a week.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
then-
it's
Yeah.
part
So I
of the
mean,
game.
Yeah.
once they're old enough,
No,
it's
there's
going to
kids
work.
at CASA right now.
Yeah.
There's kids at CISA, Spartanburg, all
Mhm.
around.
It's
And
See,
Spartanburg is coming up
Look,
too.
I had at ECNL level, we had kids driving from the beach to play on teams. They would do satellite training down there, and they would come up for once a week training.
Yeah.
Man,
Crazy. I mean, Asheville, all over. So
man.
look, this is what's
It's
coming.
coming.
It's coming.
Yeah.
And absolutely, should we not take, the
This is
best
how we get
kids
the
you can
best.
get for that for
Oh,
them?
for
This is
sure,
what we're
yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
We're not keeping scores tied, right?
Yeah.
We're like gonna try and pick the best kids
Yeah.
for the teams.
Yeah.
So, at any rate, like I said, like that whole experience was fantastic for Jackson, and to see him, it's all about God's timing. That's where I'm at.
I got a question though,
Yeah.
more about your vision from COA whenever you started it was free and you were almost recruiting the best of the best to try to have extra training.
Yeah.
But now what it's turned into is you pay
Yeah.
a lot of money.
Mhm.
And then there's no cuts. It's not even the best of the best. You have to sign up, and then there's tryouts to put you on a certain spot. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, our age group has 2 black splits, 2 red splits, and a white team. So there's no cuts.
There
It's just,
should be cuts.
Okay.
Like I cut kids when I was doing that program,
Mhm.
and very few. And here's why. Like, they're young. They have a lot of time to develop. I'll give
Mhm.
you a story that, like, I'm sure my friend Liam is fine with sharing. That, like, he was like, we can't take this girl. I'm like, I see something here.
Mhm.
I'm telling you. Because she was super shy and just was like, I don't think, and kind of almost like playing this like game of like,
Mhm.
I want the position of power, and I'm like not going to let you like tell me what to do in training. She
Mhm.
just this personality, Mia, and she ended up playing for Maryland women's college soccer team and is in the Jamaican women's national pool.
Man.
Like, that's a kid that could have been cut.
Mhm.
So you're going to give more grace, if you will, is a good word.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
for kids at that age, at a younger age, get them in the program because kids develop differently.
Right.
I mean, think about my own story, right?
Mhm.
I had my struggles. Like, and they're going to go through all that. So, especially at a young age, there should be less of that going on. But what you should be looking at was what we looked at. If a kid's not interested at all, like once this kid was encouraged and all that, she took off,
Mhm.
right? She had to get comfortable. She had to get comfortable with the environment, all that. But if you can tell a kid is just absolutely all over the place, and maybe mom and dad want it, having that
Mhm.
tough discussion, and like,
Mhm.
hey, it's not ready for you right now. And guess what? Come back again next year
Mhm.
because maybe that kid is ready.
Right.
But absolutely, that should be going on.
Yep.
And is CISA a business? Absolutely,
Yeah,
it is.
that's the other part.
It is. You've got to have the numbers to support to have full-time coaches that everybody
Mhm.
wants to have if their kids playing on top teams and all that stuff too,
Mhm.
right? So there is that element of it. And again, my kids played on the white and had an amazing experience.
Mhm.
So
No, I definitely see both sides of the coin. Like I see
Yeah,
the
it's
good,
not-
but I also
yeah.
see it's
I
like,
think
well,
black
it's
or
also
white.
your vision. That was kind of
yeah,
like
I
COE
think,
vision was.
I think
again,
almost
it wasn't-
recruiting,
it
and then-
it wasn't mine. Like I'm telling you, like I just happened to be
Sure.
there.
it was
during-
his vision.
but
No,
I think there's
yeah.
I think there's a difference between academy and COE though, because I think when you're going black, red, white on COE, like.
with extra splits.
Right.
But
I
there's
mean,
some
for
kids-
example, like our U6 team played in that U8 bracket, and our first game was against the 2018 Red COE team,
Mhm.
and we tied them 1-1 with 4 and 5-year-olds.
Yeah, but you guys have played the game and know the game, so you're not just your normal
Rec coach.
recreation coach.
Yeah.
You're also, you said it, trying to get the best kids on your team.
But it wasn't us though. I mean, that was our first time not being on the field with them too. So I mean, that was way different for them. It was the first time playing them.
Yeah,
playing
we were
with
on the
that.
sideline.
But
'Cause
what I'm saying is, like, look, so you've identified talent. Is that
Mhm.
correct?
Yeah.
So you've identified talent to make your team strong. You guys know the game, so you're doing good things in training, right? So you're not your typical rec team right there.
Sure.
Number
Yeah.
one. Number two, the age groups, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jackson's age group is deep. I mean, there's kids 100% in that final. Jackson team won 3-0. There's 100% kids that I see that have the ability to be in his group right now.
Yeah.
No question about it.
Right.
And, that age group is deep. Then there's some other age groups where I took some training sessions recently. I'm like, what's going on in this age group? Then I see our kids, like, because I watch Carlos Barrio. Carlos is a very good coach.
Yeah,
Known
he's
for a
coming
while.
on
The first, December 1st.
December 1st.
Carlos
Yeah.
is a fantastic person and great coach.
Mhm.
And I sat there and watched when our boys were done on the Sunday and watched some of him. There's some good players. And you talk about one that's tiny that could fall through the cracks, but reminds me so much of one of these players I coach that sees the game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've like Riggins 100% sees the game.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'd say Wyatt sees the game. I'd see Porter 100% sees the game, some of the
Mhm.
switch passes and things like that, but this kid there's a couple kids that should be pushing for places in our kids group 100% based on what I saw. Plus they're getting good coaching right now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You
That
know,
makes a big difference.
they just might not have started as soon.
Sure.
So there's all that. So Anyhow, it's a long-winded way of kind of
No,
answering.
no, it's
questions.
just it's interesting to me to think about it. So
Yeah.
I wanted to hear your take.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of parents would appreciate that because there's a lot of parents who are in that situation. They're like, okay, my kid didn't make the team where I thought they should. Should we stick it out and keep playing academy?
Well, I
you know?
use my story just
Yeah.
in me. And like, if my parents would have listened to my under 11 coach and said, maybe soccer isn't the sport for Tommy, again, we wouldn't be sitting here having
Yeah.
this conversation like
Yeah,
this.
you wouldn't have went to college. It paved the way for you.
You know.
your parents
Mhm.
keeping you in.
Yeah, absolutely. And things switched and kids develop at different times
Oh, yeah.
and interests change and all those things. So what are our motives behind the whole thing? And obviously we're all competitive and there's a side to that. And we want the best kids playing with our kids and want our kids to be in the
Mhm.
best spot possible.
So you were on that side as a coach then having these hard conversations with
Yeah.
parents. So talk about that. Talk to parents and how they should handle these kind of things.
It's not
What did
in-
you see in your experience and how can they learn from this podcast?
Yeah, I would just say, like, again, what are your motives? Like, if it's more about, like, do you wrap up your identity in what team your kid is playing on? So you can puff out your chest if they're playing on the Blackpool or, whatever it is. I think you need to check that. Because I
Yeah,
don't
for
think that's
sure.
coming from a good place. And so that's one huge thing. I think the other thing is try your best to take the emotion out of this is my kid, out of looking at it, and sometimes there's nothing wrong with thinking that they're wrong.
Yeah.
Like I said that I felt like that with Jackson, but I'm not going to go make a big stink about it because ultimately that was a choice that somebody else made. What can we do now?
Control the controllables.
I
Yeah.
mean, and really,
Hey, but he went and worked
Hey,
harder.
he went and
So-
worked harder.
and he's back with his buds now.
And he's started to, and he's figured out the value. Him and Liam for sure. It's been awesome for me to see them putting extra work into something that's difficult. We're in a day and age where we have to fight that, like where our kids, instant gratification surrounds us
Mhm.
with all the technology.
Yes.
Consumes our
like
kids.
that
man.
that sense, that delayed gratification where God works, where it takes patient
Yeah.
working through the process. And there's some pain involved and there's some sacrifice involved, right?
No pain,
So-
no gain.
It's the truth. I mean, that's why I start my day like I do with the
Yeah.
junkyard. Shout out to the junkyard. They're in Anderson, they're in Malden, they're in Greenville, and they're in Clemson. Ben Boulware, Marcus Brown, amazing people. Michael Hall, I think I got his last name right. Oh, don't kill me. All those people. But like, it sucks. Like, I have to embrace the suck sometimes. Like, I tell my kids that. Like, there's like 10 times I wanted to quit in that workout today, dude. But I didn't
Mhm.
because I know it makes me better. Right.
Mhm.
Same
Yeah.
thing as like you've been on a soccer field and like there's like 10 times I wanted to. I thought I could not. I thought I was gonna die if I kept running sometimes. Right.
Yeah.
I remember going to a full body cramp after the game.
Mhm.
Like just like that was probably just poor nutrition and hydration. Let's be honest.
Beers
but
the night before.
yeah, well, yeah, I have done that. Yeah, for sure. When I was in college playing days, for sure. Idiot. But anyhow, yeah, I don't know where I was going. Sorry, you lost me there. Just
No,
pain and
I
suffering
think, yeah,
sometimes leads to good,
I agree.
right? If
I
we take
think,
it the right way with all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not the perfect parent in the world, but I do think that teaching your kids to do hard things is one of the best things that you can do.
Got
Absolutely.
to, man.
Do hard
don't need to
things.
be the
And then
perfect
I
parent.
think also, like you just said, you display it on a personal level. Like you do hard things,
Mm,
so your kids see you do hard
Mhm.
things, so they're
Come
more
on.
apt to do
Yeah.
hard
Yeah.
things. I started a new hard thing this past week,
Jiu-jitsu.
Dude.
I wanted to talk
Really?
about this, bro. I
Let's
couldn't
hear
wait.
it. Let's hear it.
dude.
How
So
is it?
jiu-jitsu, I've been talking about it for, I would say probably, really, I started seeing jiu-jitsu patients probably around 2017. I feel like that's when jiu-jitsu really started to come on the scene, where people were using it as like a workout thing and they were getting into it. I think Joe Rogan probably had a lot to do with
Oh, yeah.
it. And so I'd never done it before.
Mm.
And it's weird, man. Like at 38 years old, at this point in my life, I've pretty much experienced every sporting thing that you could kind of do, right? Like I
Mhm.
have a little bit of experience in everything.
mm.
So like if I go to something, like I kind of know how to gauge it. never done any combat sport before, never wrestled, never did karate, never did taekwondo or jiu-jitsu. So anyways, an opportunity presented itself, and I've been saying it for a long time that I wanted to do it. And so I had no excuses, so I did it.
Good for
and
you.
man, there is probably nothing more humbling than going in there. But it was great because I'm completely green. I don't know anything, so I went in there with like a learner's mentality, right? Like I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what the purpose of this is other than trying to hurt somebody else or not submit somebody else. So I don't know how to do that, but I know that's the intent.
I love that.
So it was very weird at 38 going into something being completely green and being like a baby. It'd be like, I'd never touched a soccer ball before and playing with you, right? Like it would be very
Enjoyable.
Yeah.
Me
So
too,
it was,
dude.
but it was hard. It was fun. I got an incredible workout, and so I'm really looking forward to doing it. It's a new challenge, and my kids saw it and they thought it was really cool.
It's
And
amazing.
You did it
yeah,
once or
Good for
twice
you,
this
man.
week.
I did it twice. Tuesdays and Thursdays are when I'm going.
Okay,
Yeah.
nice.
Okay.
I've heard the physical side of that is
Yeah.
amazing, but the mental side of like.
So I'll tell you
yeah,
this. The way it worked out was shout out to Spartanburg Jiu-Jitsu, and I think we were going to try to get Brandon on the podcast. He works a lot with the youth and the jiu-jitsu scene. So, but Brandon owns Spartanburg Jiu-Jitsu, and the way it worked was for the first half hour, we broke down a movement into like 4 movements. So there was like the beginning, the middle, and the end, and 4 movements. And then at the end, you put it all together. So that was like a half hour. So by the time you're done with that, and you're working one-on-one with a partner, so it's like you go, I go, you go, I go, you go, I go, and you're practicing back and forth against each other. So that in of itself was pretty tiring. Like you're sweating at the end of that. And then it was 8 5-minute rounds of just straight, they call it rolling, but like fighting, I guess, right? So like you're going against somebody for 5 minutes, and then you get 1 minute rest, and then you go again. 1 minute rest, and then you go again.
So you thought you were in shit.
Dude. I mean, I've done all the things. CrossFit was a huge part of my life for a long time.
Good
I've been in excellent shape. I've been in bad shape. Right now I'm in decent,
You look good,
acceptable shape.
Man. You look good, man.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Laura's very happy.
Yeah. Well, that's the goal, right? So
Absolutely.
we go in there, and again, I know that I've always heard it doesn't matter how fit you are. Some of these bigger guys can still crush you because they just know jiu-jitsu. So by round 4, I'm rolling with this guy. He's like, "How long you been doing this?" I was like, "This is my first day." He's like, "You're doing pretty good." He's like, "Most people have thrown up by now." And at that very moment, I felt like I was going to throw up. So the rest of the time, I had 4 more rounds, and I was like, "You're not going to throw up. Don't throw
Don't
up.
do it."
Don't throw up."
He
Don't
did
throw
that
up."
to you. He put that in your
Yeah.
head.
Yeah,
Think
so
about that.
I didn't throw up. I actually did get a compliment saying that I move well, which I think athletically, I've played a lot of sports, so it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
How'd you feel the next morning?
Dude, I was so sore, and I did actually still work out that evening, like my regular
Okay.
workout. So I
Come
was
on,
I was
Trying
really
to get
sore.
it in, bro.
There he is.
Yeah, it's time. Soccer
PC.
was so consuming this year,
It
so
was,
I'm like,
bro. Demanding this year.
it's the next. I told Laura like the next 3 months is my time.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's time to get back.
That's amazing, dude. But
But,
you said like 5 minutes. of
Dude,
that.
5 minutes is so long
Yeah,
too. When
it's,
you're
relative.
when you are
Yeah.
literally
if you're doing
going
something that bad, oh my god.
when you're going against somebody like that, and they're trying to choke you out, and you're trying to like not let that happen, and the physical demand of fighting somebody is a lot more than people think. So like again, I'm very green. I don't know what I'm doing, but I do hope in a year from now we can have this conversation, and
You'd be a
I
pro.
can tell you
Dude,
some of the
that's
things that
so
I've learned.
Amazing on so many levels, though.
Yeah.
Like just stepping into something out of our comfort zone,
Being out of
something
your
new,
comfort zone.
and doing it when you're older.
Yeah.
Right. That's the
Right.
thing, man. Like 38, you're rolling against kids that are younger than you. There's kids in there that are in their 20s. It's so fun. It's so when you're 38, you don't like, you feel 38, you're 38,
You still feel young though.
but then you're talking to a 26-year-old and you're like, man, I'm like 12. I'm 12 years older than this person. You know, like,
I know, right?
It's
I got
wild.
kids I've coached that are like having babies and stuff now.
Right.
And stuff. I'm like,
Man.
talk about feeling old,
Yeah.
dude. It's crazy.
We'll do it to you.
But it was
Uh,
fun. Yeah. So I just, just starting something new and having a new challenge. I think that's important for people. And I think it's important for your kids to see
Yeah.
that. I mean, that's the whole
Absolutely.
point of bringing
Yes.
this jujitsu up. It's like having your kids
Yep.
see you try
Yep.
and do hard things. I think really rubs off on them in a good way.
Yeah, for sure.
Actions speak louder than words.
Mm-hmm.
The wise man Thomas A. Morris used to tell me that all the time, and it's the truth. And it's really challenged me. It's like Jackson being born was such a catalyst for, hey, it led me out of the soccer world, the coaching world that was really about me.
Mhm.
And because I started thinking about somebody really, I should
somebody
have been
else.
doing it more with my wife,
Mhm.
if I'm honest, right? But it was just me driven in doing something that was, getting out of that. I made that move, really thinking about more of my family.
That's awesome.
And just praise God, I had the opportunity with a family business, and now it's crazy how it's all worked to come back and have this unbelievable relationship with my father, and my brother's there, and we're working together, and it's created an avenue for me. You guys see me at the practices and the games and things like that, and I do not take that for granted.
No, you can't, man. You
Because,
can't.
It's created that opportunity to do that, and I'm like, I'm soaking it up, man.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I want to be there as much as I can, because it's gonna go away before
Yeah.
we know it.
Yeah, I know.
My babies.
I think back all the time, like, yo, man, like, so my dad, he died in December. So this is going to be 2
Mm.
years, coming up. And I'm like,
I'm sorry.
nah, I mean, it's not bad or anything.
No,
it's
yeah,
just
but-
like, it's like those times where like, I'm going to go hang out with my friends or I'm going to go do this. And it's like now, like when I have my kids, it's like, yo, I'm trying to do everything I can. It's like, people are like, where's your phone? I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm with my kid. Because,
Mm.
I remember when I got my license, like, I was never home. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So
Yeah.
that's like, just take those moments where your kids, like my friend's about to have a kid. I'm like, bro, remember these moments and don't rush. You don't
Mhm.
want your kid to get big. Because once you can't hold him anymore, you
Mhm.
can't hold him anymore.
No.
Yeah.
You're right.
And like people don't think
Absolutely.
about that. They don't tell you that. Like,
Now there's been times like going to the church, whatever, leave him like once. He's the cuddler, believe it
Yeah.
or not. You see him on the field, like
Yeah.
trying to run through people, but
Yeah.
he's like such a cuddler.
Yeah.
Cindy's that way for sure. And hold me, daddy. And like my first instinct was like, boy, walk yourself. And I was like, then it's like, wait a second. Like there's gonna be a time where I can't,
yeah.
and he's not gonna want
Not
to.
me when I
Or
don't
he's
want you
not
to.
gonna
He's
ask
not
you.
gonna
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to, So he's 7 years old. So dude, soak it up.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I've it's weird. Like even the last 2 weeks, Reagan's will come down in the morning, to eat breakfast, and I'll look at him and be like, "Man, I swear you've grown a half an inch overnight." It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's like they keep.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
overnight. You just look at them and you're like, you go like maybe 3 months and they look the same, and then all of a sudden, bam!
Mm-hmm.
Do your
Yeah.
kids get the clumsies?
Yes,
Like
Yeah.
bro.
Liam a couple weeks ago literally was falling over his own feet
I'm like,
on the
bro,
way
what
to
are
the
you doing?
field. Like, what's going on with this kid? And then then you're like, oh, he's emotional. Oh, he's growing.
Growing.
And then
He's
you look at him,
growing,
you're like,
growing,
what
yeah.
happened?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Sleeping anywhere and everywhere. I'm like, bro, wake up, bro.
Oh my
And
goodness.
eating.
Yeah.
Yeah. You need it.
Yeah. You remember how much you ate when you were a teenager? Just think, we have to get ready
Dude.
for that.
Oh my goodness,
Eating
man.
out of
I
house
feel like
and
it's
home.
already
I'm not
started,
ready
man.
for
Like
that.
Yeah.
kids eat
I'm
so
not ready for
much.
that. God bless Gloria Morris, my mom.
Yeah.
I mean, chicken cutlets, the pasta, the meatballs,
Yeah.
all over. I mean, we went through some food.
Dude, I'm gonna have
Can't
to put
imagine.
a lock on the pantry
Yeah,
door
for
because
sure.
Saxon
Yeah.
lives in the pantry. Like
Mhm.
if you can't find him, he's in the pantry
Snacking.
by himself.
I
Yeah,
love
man.
it.
I love
that. Man after my own heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Likes to eat.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. You want to do some rapid fire?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh,
Let's do it.
rapid fire. Yeah.
All
Forgot
right.
about this thing.
Mike, you want to go first?
I do. I want to know your top 5-a-side team.
Ooh. All right.
I like this question.
So we need keepers or no?
Yeah, you can do a keeper. Give me a
Like,
keeper.
Do we like?
You
I
don't
wouldn't
have to.
No,
have
You don't
a
have
keeper.
to. You
I'm
can do
saying
whatever you
keeper.
want. I just want to know your 5 best.
Okay. Roy Keane,
Okay.
Wayne Rooney,
Oh my gosh, this Man United guy for
Mm,
sure.
Messi,
Okay.
Rio Ferdinand.
Okay. Yeah, another Man United guy.
Oh, I mean, you got to have balance in your
Yeah,
side,
you're
man.
right, you're
And
right.
talk about a Rolls Royce defender, man. I mean,
Mhm.
he would be solid at the back and getting forward. Ooh. So again, I think I need balance. So I've got midfield, I got
Striker,
forward,
striker.
really anywhere. Rooney, right?
Yeah.
Messi. I mean, he could play. I mean, he'd have him up front and let these guys just be absolute beasts for him. And Rio, and maybe it's a left-sided Maldini.
That's
Yeah.
a solid squad.
I think it's solid.
That's a solid squad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty
So,
good. Pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. You talked about what, Glory Morris. Glory Morris.
Gloria Morris, Nana.
All right, Gloria Morris. You go home, and
Yes.
what's her favorite? What's your favorite meal of hers?
Ooh, probably the. Man, it's so tough.
You gotta pick. You gotta
It's-
pick one.
It's red sauce, of course,
Okay.
and because I can go this way, this is my workaround.
Mm-hmm.
Because mom doesn't just do like one pasta. It's not just like spaghetti and meatballs. It's like spaghetti and meatballs and.
Yeah.
So it'd be spaghetti and meatballs because her meatballs are ridiculous with her Italian sausage because she makes
Homemade.
the oh dude, like, so not the Italian sausage, she definitely gets store bought. Although my uncle Frank Puno up in Ohio sometimes makes the sausage, and that's ridiculous. So anyhow, but she simmers it in the sauce. Like when she
Mm.
does the meatballs and the sausage, and then she simmers it in the sauce, and it's
Slow
just
cooks
like
it.
melts in your mouth with that sauce.
Man.
Amazing. The spaghettis and then lasagna, like her lasagna.
You're
So,
speaking my
yeah,
language,
Yeah.
dude.
bro, so good.
Colby's
Just
wife
carb
makes
load.
a mean lasagna.
does.
Really?
She
Yeah,
does.
she
Go on.
does.
Well, the great, yeah,
Yeah, she's great.
yeah. So I mean, there's
Dude,
something
it's
there.
so
Yeah,
good.
for sure.
we had what I forgot when it was. It was the other night, but it was we had your boys. Is that what
I
it
don't
was?
remember how it went down. I just remember that I came over.
Yeah, I think your boys
I'm
were at
telling
my
you,
house.
coming back from I remember these memories, but
yeah.
I'm having a hard time bringing them back into the brain. I
Well,
just
look,
remember,
you guys get.
I remember
these
the
good
essentials like
times.
lasagna.
Like, we're too far away. It just stinks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude. Yeah, our kids spend a lot of time together,
That's
which is
awesome.
fun.
Well,
That's good.
but like we live both that way, so I think your boys were at my house during a pod, and then
That's
you
right.
picked them up to go back to your house, but then Alex had made lasagna, and
That's
so we were
right.
just like, David, you want some lasagna while you're here? Why are you picking them up? So, and then
Yeah,
she
sure,
also
no,
brought.
lasagna.
It was
she
one of
also
those
brought
things,
some.
man, where I had a plate, and obviously, I'm the guest, so I go up for seconds, and then I wanted to keep going back up, but then I was like, they probably need leftovers for like 2 weeks. So I didn't keep going.
You ate the whole
Dude, it
lasagna.
was so good.
And we
It-
made a
awesome.
plate for Laurel, and David
Yeah.
probably ate it before we gave it to
I
her.
brought it back. I did bring it back, but that was good. Okay, my question.
Yeah.
If you have two boys, and obviously they both play soccer. If you had to compare each boy to a professional player's game, what player would you compare them to?
Come on, man.
Come on, it's a fun. Like for me, easily Saxon is Wayne Rooney by
Yeah,
far. Oh,
Yeah, I
100%.
can see that for sure.
Yeah.
Oh man,
That's a
That
hard
is-
question. I've never even
that's
thought
hard,
about
yeah.
that. That's a good one.
So Jackson is. Can I just say this? So I'm trying to think in my mind. What Jackson is more linear.
Mhm.
Like he's fast. Like he's faster than Liam. Actually, in his grade, he's like the fastest. He's got this ability. If he harnesses it, it's just this mentality of like, and I kind of challenged that on that recently. Like
Mhm.
your ability is here, but your mentality to compete is here. So that doesn't really give you an answer because I can't help but say like I don't love the question because I don't want him to equate something and get something out of it if he hears this, but I'll go for it. I'm trying to think. And like the only one I can think of is Cristiano Ronaldo, which is way, I mean, but like in the what I'm saying in the mold of like for me, he's leaner than me and more upright and more vertical,
Mhm.
where he can take somebody on and get
I'm running
past
at
them with
you.
pace. You know
Sure.
what I'm saying? That's a ridiculous comparison. So, but I'm
But I
trying to
get
think
it.
of somebody else that's
No, I think
like
it's.
that.
I think that's perfect. What about
You know?
Liam?
Liam is more side to side, stronger on the ball. Like he's got a wider base. So, and he's a leader. And I'll go Roy Keane because he's my
That's your
Keno.
guy.
He's my Keno, and
All right.
simple and self. Play for the team and all that. Yeah,
Sure.
for sure. So there you go. That's the best I could do. Rapid.
I would ask you who your favorite team was, but we already know that.
Do you want to know the story behind that?
Yeah.
why they're my favorite team.
Yeah, you
Sure.
can tell me.
If that's
Absolutely.
okay.
I didn't know there's a
Because-
story. If there's a story. then
Well,
there's-
I mean, look, Manchester United is like the Dallas Cowboys, right?
Yeah.
Like they're a
Mhm.
huge club, whatever. It's easy to like them, especially if you're American. So, like, I had in my under 12 coach, I want to say, his dad was a big Man United fan, an English guy, and so he made our team Red Devil Soccer in Erie, PA. So that stuck. That was the
Yeah.
team I knew. We couldn't watch. Here's something.
Right.
Like American soccer getting better. You can watch all these games on TV.
Yeah,
like
that's
growing
amazing.
up, it wasn't until I was like I remember watching the '94 World Cup. Like I'm like jacked up about that because it's USA,
Mhm.
right? It's in US, and we did well, so that was huge. And then like trying to find games wasn't until Champions League
That's crazy, right?
came on in the afternoons, and United
245.
was the team doing really well in the Champions
Mhm,
League.
mhm.
And then I saw Roy Keane playing, and I'm like, dude, this is my guy, and
Yeah.
my team, and just kind of fell in love and stuck with him,
Nice.
you know, from there. And then it obviously helped that they were successful.
so winning, yeah,
you know, so
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So if you had a black card, you and Cindy, where are you guys going?
oh what?
A black card. You go anywhere you
All
guys want to go.
expenses
in the
paid
world.
for a
Sorry,
week.
I didn't know this one.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Anywhere you go, no kids, just you two.
Wherever my beautiful wife would like to go.
That's a smart man right there. I like that.
You give her the card, right? You
Yeah.
say, "Here you go, honey."
15 years of marriage. Honestly, because yeah, she's awesome and she's smart and like, you know, she's put up with me for this long. God
You know
bless
what's
her.
wild
Yeah.
is about being married
Yeah.
is like I remember when I first I was in my 20s or early 20s and getting married, and I got married in my late 20s, and I thought, you know, I had an older sister and a younger sister, so I thought I knew women. Like I thought I knew. I feel like the more
Let me know if you
I feel like
Dude, you're gonna make millions.
I feel like the longer you're married,
Yeah.
the less you know.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, like,
Oh, yeah.
it's like all these rules that you thought were in place go out the door at like year 10.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
For sure.
Yeah.
So like someone bring it back this way, but so this has been huge, like thinking about this. So I've been listening to this podcast, a pastor of mine, Bema podcast, and it's like it's talking about Eastern philosophy. the
Oh,
difference
I
Eastern and
listened to
Western.
Bema.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you know, right?
Yep.
So like the plank that opposes.
I didn't
Woman.
listen to the whole thing. You
So about-
probably are way ahead of
No,
me.
this is like this
But-
is early on, but like it talks about like marriage and woman, like it's the plank that opposes. So picture two planks of wood,
Mhm.
and okay, that press against each other to like form a house, like a structure.
Mhm.
Like right, if you do that correctly, they press against each other, and it's very very strong. And so that's Cindy. I've started calling her my planky because she's
Mm.
pressed against me and like reluctantly for me many times, but like coming to this understanding and growth,
Yeah.
I understand that she just loves me,
wants
and it's
the best for
actually
you.
God's design that way.
Yeah.
Is like one to press against each other to get better,
Yeah.
because where I'm weak, she's
She's
definitely
strong.
strong,
Mhm.
and
Vice
maybe
versa.
sometimes vice versa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give
Be
yourself
careful.
credit,
Be
man.
Yeah.
careful.
Yeah. So
No,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Is it,
All right.
is it my turn?
No, my turn.
Oh,
I
okay.
thought of a question because Mike stole mine. So
Oh, I
had to think about it.
did.
But I got one. I like this.
Come
I'm
on.
excited about it.
Yeah.
You have vast experience in soccer, playing, coaching, all the
Yeah,
things.
you
all
do,
relative.
definitely.
Yeah.
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 What's one rule you would change about soccer? Like an actual like
I
a rule,
like
a law,
it.
law of the game. If you could change one law of the game, what would it be?
How about like
Mike's rolling his
how
eyes
about-
over there. Wait, he was there for that freaking conversation we
was
had with
there.
the
He was
handballs.
What?
Well, let him answer.
Yeah.
Let him answer. We'll
Yeah.
talk about
No.
I was?
that. Yeah, you were there.
Oh,
You
no.
were, but that was after
We had
your
a good
keg
night.
stand.
We had a good night.
Oh,
That was after your
yeah,
keg stand.
that was
Yeah.
was wild. You
I didn't. Whoa.
Dude, you
You
went
ducked
first.
I went last.
Did he?
He was
Absolutely.
last.
I was
okay.
trying to
All
get.
right,
I was
see.
trying to get out of that
All right.
mug.
Yeah.
You
I didn't
know,
do
I
it.
was definitely trying to get out of that mug. But hey, you know, you got to do what you got to do. Sometimes.
right, that's right.
Give the people what they
That's
want.
That's right.
So, at any rate, yeah. To your question, I hate the way the offsides is done with VAR, where I think if it's so close, you should be encouraging attacking play
Mhm.
and goal scoring. That like And I don't know what the workaround is, because it's like now they're using that technology, but it should be, if it's a doubt, give the advantage to the attacking player.
Yes.
I
And
think
it
that
seems like
yeah,
it's like
sorry.
the other way around,
Mhm.
you know? Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I agree. I think that's where the beauty of the game comes with referees, right?
Yeah.
Like when the referee makes the call. Same thing with umping, right? For baseball, right?
Yeah.
They're bringing AI for pitching, right? So to call strikes. It's like, come on.
Mm.
Like that's part of the game.
It's part of the game.
Right.
Is the umpire
Right.
calling the strikes. I
Right.
mean,
That's
And
the
it
way
makes
it's
for- it
going,
makes-
though.
Makes for conversation too. You know, like, oh, he was offside.
Yeah,
no, he
yeah.
wasn't.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
this is
And
it's
like,
taking
look,
the fun
you're
out of the
gonna
game.
get some bad calls. Can
It's
you be
part
an
of the game.
Part of the
overcomer?
game.
Is what
Yeah.
I'm telling my kids. Can you overcome that? That's
Yeah.
what good
Right.
teams do.
Yeah.
And if you look at it, they usually do even
Mhm.
Yeah.
themselves out across
Yeah.
the season. So yeah,
That's true.
I like that answer too.
I think that's a great
Because
answer.
Kind of relating it to baseball. I mean, a tie goes to the runner. Same thing. If
Yeah.
it looks close enough in real time, tie should go to the attacker.
come on.
For, like, if you
people want to
can't-
see
for offsides,
goals.
like, if
people
you-
want to see runs. They
Yeah.
want to see goals. They want to see touchdowns.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, I agree.
You just
Yeah.
got to make sure that the refs are like top quality too. Because if you have a top-notch defender who knows what he's doing with offsides, then you got to make sure that the ref is on the same page as
Sure.
that. So
Oh, yeah.
if it's not going to have that review,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think football did that perfectly, right? Where the team gets what, 2 challenges.
Yep.
I think that's perfect, right?
Yeah.
Like have a challenge, but
Yeah.
after that, it's
Yeah.
up to the ref. You know?
No, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
No,
Mhm.
that's good. There's
Yeah.
a lot of stuff from football that we could probably take.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
and
Speaking
use
of
that.
football, if
Yeah.
you weren't playing
You're talking about hand egg now.
it,
The
what
ball,
he-
the
that's
ball
right.
that
That's
looks like
right.
an
That's
egg,
right.
that's
That's right.
your hand.
If
Not
you
the ball
if
that,
you
like,
hadn't
looks like a ball and you use
Use
your
foot.
feet.
That's correct. That's
Sorry.
correct.
Yeah.
American football.
Yeah.
If you hadn't played soccer,
Mhm.
what sport would you have wanted to go all the way in?
Maybe football, maybe American football. Like
Nice.
I was 6th grade quarterback. 6th and 7th graders led my team to championship. I'm not gonna say.
Hey.
No, look, I had a lot of good players around me, but
Yeah.
I just like growing up. My older brother played it. Like something about that. Like I really. I mean, I played basketball and I loved it. I think what encouraged me not to play in high school was my high school team was so good. I think we had this conversation
Yeah.
where, you know, like Kobe Bryant they're playing against in, you know, my sophomore year of high school, and like they had like Chris Webber. So it was an all boys prep school in Pennsylvania is where I went to. And I went there kicking and screaming because I went all the way through middle school public. But that turned out to be an amazing experience for me. And
That's crazy.
it was wild, you know. And I tell you what was awesome was I was out in the suburbs and there wasn't as much diversity, socioeconomic, everything. And going to the school in the city, there was, you know, a lot of affluency, way more than us, but also not, which I think is huge. Like, you know, people are all coming from different places.
Yeah.
And guess what? Especially with soccer traveling, I found out we're a lot more alike than we're different.
Oh, for sure.
You know, and there's people that want to highlight our differences instead of like we're a lot more alike than different.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
Kind of went off on one there.
Nah, you're good.
Yeah. So
I just want to know, what's one thing, like one piece of advice you would give a parent about their child in youth sports?
yeah. Let go. Let go.
he's basically talking to us right now. I think.
And no, I'm talking to myself too. Yeah. I've had to like check myself.
Yeah, I think everybody
Like-
does.
I mean, I don't know if we touched on this. We might have, but you see me like sitting away from everybody
Mhm.
because if I'm on the sidelines, I'm more likely to start coaching.
Yeah.
I even did a little bit this weekend. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Shut your mouth.
Mhm.
So I go away and I started to take notes just to talk to the kids after the game. Like, give them the chance to play the game and make all the mistakes and all that stuff while they're in it. And they're not, they can listen. We're paying a coach
To coach.
to coach them
Right.
Yeah.
and give them the information. And sometimes they are, and sometimes they're not. And that's going to be okay too, because
Yeah.
guess what? They're not hyper focused on our kid only like we are.
Yeah.
They've got a whole team of
Team of
kids to
kids.
coach, not
I think
just ours.
I think that's one of the
Yeah.
biggest things. When I was talking to Anthony one time, he said that he was like, dude, when you're watching a game, you are hyper focused on your kid
For sure.
and you're not seeing all the mistakes that all the other kids are making
Yeah.
just as much.
Absolutely.
And I was like, that's true.
Mhm.
Because
No,
when you are
100%.
watching a game, you are hyper focused on your kid.
Mhm.
And when you sit back and watch the rest of the team,
Mhm.
you can see,
Oh, we're hypercritical
Yeah.
of our kids too.
Yeah.
yep,
Because we're more hypercritical of ourselves, probably.
Yeah.
Right? You guys are all successful. You know, you guys are all successful people and parents. So you've had to be critical. We have to be self-reflective.
Mhm.
And I think teaching our kids to do that is huge.
They're very huge.
And doing that in a way that like we're talking through it, like afterwards, after the fact, I think is huge.
Mm.
Right.
Mhm.
So yeah, that'd probably be it.
cool. All right, I think that's good.
Yeah.
Couple shout outs before we end. 90 Plus OT. They've got a winter camp coming up. Go sign your kid up.
Mention us and get
mention-
something.
Yeah. Well, that's it was for winter camp. Winter camp, I believe. Shoot, I don't have it off the top of my head, but I believe it's at right before Christmas.
Mhm.
So go ahead and sign your kid up. It's a great camp. They've actually got a lot of our a couple people that have been on this podcast are going to be coaches there. Brando will be there.
Mhm.
Ryan will be there.
Yep.
Ezra will be there.
Yep. Sergio
So
Juan.
Sergio and Juan, obviously they'll be there. So I think if you guys are looking for something to do on Christmas break, keep your kids' skills up, maybe learn something from some really professional guys. Go check out 90 Plus OT for their winter camp.
Yeah.
Again, all of our kids train every week with Sergio at 90 Plus OT. If you guys are interested in getting some great one-on-one or group training with Sergio or Juan at 90 Plus OT or Hayden, go ahead and mention the Sideline Talk podcast and they'll give you 10% off your first training session for your child.
Nice.
One other thing that I want to shout out to is Colby. He got these awesome new t-shirts made.
yeah.
Hey.
I'm very
Yeah,
jealous.
Yeah, let's go. So
they're coming out soon.
they're
Coming
going to be
soon,
coming
coming
out
soon.
on sale to the public very soon. So we've got these t-shirts, we've got a couple sweatshirts, some crew necks, and we're going to get some hats. So if you guys are interested in getting some Sideline Talk apparel to wear on the sidelines during the spring season or even basketball season, look
All
out
year round.
Yeah, all year round. Look out for the upcoming sale. We'll do a pre-order and get you guys some new threads.
Nice.
So other than that, Mike, anything else you want to say? Oh, I want to say one more thing. Guys, if you like what you hear on this podcast, whatever platform you're on, go ahead and make sure you hit subscribe or follow. If you guys want some more content as far as social media goes, follow us on Instagram at Sideline Talk _ Follow us on TikTok at
Sideline Talk _
Sideline Talk
Love it.
_ Obviously, if you like the YouTube channel, that's also at Sideline Talk _ So go ahead and subscribe to that.
Share with your friends. Share your posts. Share stories. Friends, family.
Yeah, I
everything.
think
Spread the word.
one of the coolest things about the tournament this past weekend was just random people coming up to us,
Yeah.
seeing our shirts.
That's
or
what I was about
whatever,
to say, man. Like,
saying,
Hey, I listened to that.
I listened to your
that
podcast.
So
That's awesome.
Who was somebody came up to you? Was it you, David? They were like, I recognize your voice.
yeah, this
Hell, that's
kid,
crazy.
this kid, he came up to me. He's like, "Man, your voice sounds really familiar. It sounds just like the voice of this podcast that I listen to." I was like, "Interesting."
that
But-
is me.
That is me. Yeah, but anyways, guys, like we love bringing you guys this content. Obviously, a lot of this stuff is local. As we grow, we'll probably expand out more. But if you guys like it, just make sure give us your feedback. We love Instagram DMs telling us your feedback.
I love your podcast.
So
Thank you.
thank
Oh, thank
you.
you.
I think
Thank
it's been
you.
awesome.
Thank
for
you.
Sure.
So
Very great concept, and I think it's like super, super enriching for parents. So sorry to interrupt, but
great.
No, it's
Well,
just a
that-
couple
Thank
of
you for the
soccer
plug.
dads talking. That's all we
Yeah.
do.
Yep.
Hey,
So-
I've been told that we need to do our polls by multiple people.
Oh yeah, I've heard
Yeah,
that too.
yeah.
So,
We're gonna do that.
Yep.
And also, I gotta say that I know that there's caffeine in Monsters now. The rehab that I had, I got called out by a
Did you?
few people saying there is caffeine in there.
I
need
told
to
you. I
read.
was like, what?
Yeah, there's a
So
lot
you
of
were right.
caffeine in Monsters.
Well, this
The
one
one
has
he had last
the
time.
one
that was-
it has less, significant amount less, but
Okay.
there still is. And I
Remember he was
told
drinking
there
it last
wasn't.
time. That
are
was
you
a-
off caffeine?
Yes,
Oh, good for you,
Yes.
man.
it
That's
was.
good.
I mean, I still drink coffee, but I'm just not having any more energy drinks.
Yeah, me
I
too.
was
Seriously,
drinking that energy drink, and I was like told that it didn't have caffeine.
somebody
which I
told me
was
because
wrong.
it's synthetic caffeine,
Yes.
and that's like horrible for you. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to stick to coffee and tea.
Yeah.
So
I'm trying it. It's been good.
guys, can I just say, like, I'm super grateful and humbled that you just asked me and to be here, and then I've just really enjoyed it. And
Well, this has been,
grateful to know
dude,
you guys.
I've been looking forward to this podcast
Yeah.
for several weeks. Even before we scheduled it, I was looking forward to it.
Gotta have you on again, man.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and this has officially been the longest podcast we've ever had at 2 hours.
That will not
2 hours, 2 hours and 15 minutes. So
But I love it.
it was good. All right. Well, y'all have anything else to say?
I've got something for you.
all right,
after
one
this,
more
too.
thing.
Yeah,
Oh,
I do.
You want
for
us to
each-
cancel it out, or you want to be
No,
this
no,
on
I'm
the
just
podcast?
no. I'm saying like I got a gift for you guys.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Appreciate
Thank you.
that.
Love you guys.
All right, I love you too. All right, y'all heard it
Sideline
here
talk,
on
yeah.
Sideline Talk.
There we go. That was awesome.